All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Watch the Obsession True Crime. I'm so glad that you are here with us tonight, and we are going to be talking about, for the first time, the first live stream on this channel discussing the Karen Read trial. So I don't know how familiar all of you are with the Karen Read trial. There's already been an entire trial, and it was quite a ride. I know a few of you that I talked to watched the whole trial and you're familiar with a lot of the details. I mean, it really was, well, of course, a very serious offense because the life of a human being was lost. And not only was that human being and a good human being, he was a Boston police officer. His name was Officer John O'Keefe, and he was a boyfriend of Karen Read. Karen Read and John O'Keefe had a long history of dating. We're not going to get into all that today. I'm doing a documentary with our whole backstory and all of those details. I'm hoping it's going to come out in the next week or so. But they had dated for a while when they were younger. They went their separate ways and then reunited in life, and had quite a deep bond. And like a lot of relationships, at some point, each of them felt like the relationship was going in a different way. And there was some strife in the relationship, but by no means, according to the people who are in the know, did it seem to anybody like it was the kind of strife that's going to cause somebody to commit murder. So the whole trial happens, and the defense, Karen Read's defense, has a complete alternative theory of how Officer John O'Keefe lost his life. Because it's the state, well, rather, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that asserts that Karen Read hit Officer John O'Keefe with her black Lexus after a night of drinking, and his body was found on the lawn of another officer in the blizzard, the freezing cold. Essentially, he died from hypothermia. So their theory is Karen Read hit him, and she intentionally killed him. They went for first-degree murder. The result of the first trial was a mistrial, and slated to begin in April of 2025, this coming April, there is going to be another trial. Karen Read is being tried again by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, different prosecutor, some additions to her defense team. There are some questions about, will all of the same players be testifying again? How is the defense going to change it up? How's the prosecution going to change it up? But guys, if you're not familiar with this case, the details are absolutely insane. And, oops, hold it. Just give me 1 second here. And did I say welcome to all of you guys, by the way? Welcome. I'm so glad y'all are here. I just kind of launched right into that, but I'm not going to go through and say hello to everybody because I'm uploading something right now, but I'm really glad you guys are here. And I know that a lot of you have interest in this case, and I really am so excited to dive into it with you because there is so much to discuss in the way of justice for Officer John O'Keefe and his family, and really for all citizens of the free world and of the United States, and for Karen Read. Because, I put some poll questions up there. I would love for you to answer them because I really want to know what you think. It is the opinion of many that Karen Read was treated, is an understatement, hugely unfairly. And a lot of people believe she is a victim of a complete cover-up to cover the butt of another member of law enforcement who would be the actual, whether intentional or not, murderer of Officer John O'Keefe. Whew, it's a lot of details. All right, here, I'm loading up something here for you. Just let me click the right button so YouTube will take it. Come on, YouTube. Do I have to butter you up again, baby? Oh my goodness. In that weather, the nor'easters, I don't know if you guys are familiar with nor'easters. I live in the northeastern part of the United States, and I live in way upstate New York, so I am very familiar with this Boston-like weather. And man, those blizzards, they are wicked. It's the kind of weather that can and will kill. It's some pretty wild stuff. So, all right, there we go. I got that uploaded for you. Let's see. And thank you guys for being here. I'm so excited to see you guys. So far, just a few people have voted in the poll. Please put your vote in. Let's see, we have 27 votes. And the question is Karen Reed responsible for the death of her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe? Weigh in. And so far, 15% people said yes, she is responsible. And 85 of you have said no, she is not responsible. Calista Katz, and welcome, Calista. How are you doing? Says, oops, I have to go over to StreamYard to add that. Hold up. So much corruption, Calista says, they are not used to being called out on it. My gosh, if, through the course of the testimony in that trial, that is not the conclusion that people came to. I mean, I respect your opinion, but I really want to know how people came to any conclusion other than that, right? And I really, truly do want to know that. I'm not saying that to be like a smart ass or something. Yeah, and Kylee, I'm so glad you're here. I'm excited to see your perspective too. Oh, somebody else said that. Mind your business. I'm excited to see your perspective on this case. I can't wait to see your perspectives. I haven't talked to this case with a lot of people, a few moderators, Jay and Kez and a few of you honey bun out there. But it's mostly been between myself, my brain, and what I have read in the news, what I've done for research, and then what I've taken in through YouTube. So, let's see. All right, let me bring this into the stream here. So this is just a little more. This is only 3 minutes long, just a little more of foundation of the case here for you. Oops, we're going through my studio there. Hopefully I can. Oh, maybe I can't do it that way. Maybe I can, maybe I can't, maybe I can, maybe I can't. Let's find out. Nope, I can't. All right, let me see. You just got to bring something different into the stream here is all. Oh, no, don't do that. I love you, StreamYard. If I flatter you, will you work better for me? Oops. I do. I love my StreamYard. I mean, what would I do without it? I'd have to find something else to use, and maybe it'd be much better, but maybe it wouldn't be. All right, here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's the Obsession True Crime. I'm Kylee. Come on in and take a deep dive with us into the most intriguing true crime cases. Karen Reed is accused of murdering her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, by striking him with her SUV and leaving him to die in the snow after a night of drinking. Karen maintains her innocence and alleges a police cover-up, leading to a high-profile trial that resulted in a mistrial due to a hung jury, with prosecutors now planning to retry her on charges including second-degree murder and leaving the scene of a crime. The case gained significant attention due to the Free Karen Reed movement among supporters who believe that she is being framed by the police. This is a story behind the Karen Reed trial and some issues that are relevant today, that are being decided today in the courts preceding the beginning. And I mean like today, as in like today, there was just something really important decided about allowing testimony from an expert on dog bites, and we're going to talk about that. But also, as I was, looking to start covering this on this channel, I was talking to Kez last night and saying, what's up with Michael Proctor? He's the lead detective on the case. Like, that man can't still be employed in law enforcement. But last I heard, he kind of was. So she looked into it a little for me and found out that the hearing, his misconduct hearing, his most recent one, was today. It was literally today. So that's where we're going to jump in. And man, if you have not heard the words that came out of this man's mouth while he was on the stand in a court of law, be ready to be shocked, because I was shocked. Of her second trial, the one where she'll be tried for second-degree murder, which is slated to begin at this time in April of 2025. So just a note there, very important. So she's going to be tried again after the mistrial. Now, some things went really wrong in this mistrial, including this judge who made a lot of errors, and there is so much to talk about. We're really going to have to break this down into segmented live streams and videos to cover topics in depth because we want to be able to do complete deep dives. And every topic you broach in this case, I'm not even kidding, you can dive so deep down, like into, under, and then back above and around the Titanic. It's just wild. But in the second trial that is going to begin in April of 2025, coming up, the charges are different. First-degree murder is off the table, and she's looking at second-degree murder as her highest charge. There was a lot of issue with the jury instructions and the way the judge handled allowing the jury to determine that they were, that they were irreconcilably locked in their opinions and could not come to a unanimous decision. It's just drama all over the place. On January 29th of 2022, a blizzard, one of those good old nor'easters, was heading towards the greater Boston area. But before the storm, Boston police officer John O'Keefe met his girlfriend, Karen Reed, a college professor, at a local bar in downtown Canton. At the end of the night, they were invited to an after party at another officer's home. Karen drove to that house, but she never got out of the car. John did. The next morning, John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of that home. The question is and remains, how did John O'Keefe die? Prosecutors say Karen Reed intentionally struck him with her car and murdered him. Now, as you will learn, there is some reason to believe that there could be a possible motive for murder, or at least some bad feelings between John and Karen. There was definitely some strife in their relationship, and according to a number of accounts, it seems that their relationship was heading in different directions according to each of their perspectives. But there are alternate theories. Would strife in a relationship be enough for Karen Reed, an accomplished, well-off college professor, to murder her boyfriend? The defense says that John O'Keefe went inside the home, into the party, and something happened. And there's a few different reasons to believe that something could have happened, and we'll talk about them. They say that he was killed in that home and then placed onto the front yard by people who were inside that home. There's also this element of a possible dog attack. The defense says they believe that John O'Keefe was attacked by the homeowner's German Shepherd, Chloe. At the first trial last year, the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict. So Karen Reed will be retried this spring. And again, the trial is slated to begin in April of 2025. Okay, so that was just a little, we're talking, base summary of the case, okay? Because like I said, this case is like, woo! Like the narrator's like, oh, I haven't got much into this case. And I said, buckle up, Buttercup, because you are in for quite a ride. Now, just even your comments here, so Sub Rosa says, let me go back up to where that comment was. And personally, I'm not placing judgment on this, but it seemed like a true enough statement. Sub Rosa says, if none of them were drunk and driving in a blizzard, nobody would be dead and nobody would be on trial. And I replied, Sub Rosa, I got to give it to you. Ain't that the truth? But then I read Giovanni Pikachu's comment, and welcome, Giovanni's Pikachu. It's great to see you. Said to Sub Rosa, not true. And I think the focus on the drinking is ultimately a distraction to the real issue at hand. And then I was like, well, damn, that's a good point too. So to that, I said, Giovanni, you have a good point too. So even for people who are, making good logical arguments or taking positions on all of the very controversial elements in this case, like in a lot of cases, like the Watts case, of course, welcome to Watts the Obsession, it tends to be very polarizing in all regards. And although this case is polarizing as to whether people think that Karen Reed is guilty or not, or if there was a cover-up or not, all of these different elements that make this case so complex are very controversial. And it's really hard to draw a stark line anywhere. Yeah. Kylee says, good base summary for how convoluted this is. Well, thank you, man, because boiling that down into like 3 minutes was really, really hard. I was like, I just want to give them the best highlights that are going to give people the best idea of the case without going too deep into it. Because like I said, we're going to have to do a ton of mini deep dives. So thank you. Really appreciate that feedback. So now let's talk about today, about what was going on today in the courts regarding the fate of Trooper Michael Proctor, who was the lead detective, the lead investigator on this case. And man, after hearing him testify, if I don't, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I have absolute disdain for this man. The way he spoke, the way he treated the investigation of a fellow fallen officer with such disrespect and absolute absence of professionalism. The way he treated Karen Reed, just the way he spoke about her. Oh my God, guys, wait. I don't know. If you got blood pressure things going on, like, I'm just going to say, do some deep breathing, take your blood pressure medication, because this stuff can be triggering. All right. So let me just bring this in. So talking about today was his most recent misconduct hearing. Michael Proctor, man of the year.
We could soon learn the fate of suspended state police trooper Michael Proctor. He is set to face a trial board tomorrow morning. He was the lead investigator in the Karen Reed murder case and has since faced allegations of misconduct. Kirsten Glavin joining us live tonight at State Police Headquarters in Framingham, where that hearing will be held. Kirsten, what can we expect?
Yeah, Michael Proctor is expected to arrive here tomorrow morning in person for his trial board hearing. And it's likely that we'll know by this time tomorrow night if he's still a Massachusetts State Police trooper.
The Commonwealth to call Trooper Michael Proctor to the stand.
Suspended Massachusetts State Police trooper Michael Proctor will soon learn his fate on the force. The lead investigator on the Karen.
So to be clear, he is currently suspended, but he is suspended with pay, enjoying his nice, fluffy $187,000 a year salary.
Reed murder trial set to face the misconduct allegations against him at a state police trial board hearing on Wednesday.
There were a lot of missteps, not to mention the provocative statements that were made through text messaging.
Proctor's initial suspension coming down after Reed's mistrial was declared in July. While on the stand, the trooper asked to read aloud highly offensive text messages that he sent to colleagues, friends, and even family members while investigating John O'Keefe's death.
She's a whack job.
Proctor's internal affairs investigation now complete, with the trial board eyeing possible disciplinary actions. The state police colonel tasked with that final decision.
This is an administrative action by the department, and in that regard, they need to get through this one piece. And then the secondary issue is, will he be another witness for the actual trial itself? And for who?
With Reed's retrial set for April, disciplinary action could be beneficial to Reed's defense, according to legal analysts.
In my opinion, it couldn't look much worse right now. Though the language that he used, the things he was telling his friends, and the involvement of his superiors in some of those text messages, to me, it's virtually catastrophic for the government. As is.
This as Reed and her team work to cast reasonable doubt to a jury.
And that's the problem from the standpoint of the government, is that, their lead investigator has been fatally wounded already. And that's the question is that going to fatally wound the case as well?
Oh my God. I just have to say, what is wrong with everybody involved in this case?
Post-commission.
What a poor choice of words. When he's talking about Trooper Michael Proctor and, his value to the case now after all the damage he's done, he says he's fatally wounded, and he's fatally wounded the case. Why is everybody so fucked up in this case? What a horrible choice of words when you're talking about a murder, or, somebody who was killed, an officer of the law who, we by decorum are supposed to give this elevated level of respect to. There is, and I highlighted this comment, I want to make a point of it because this really is the bottom line. And we have to remember this. And I think it's important that I on this channel remember this in everything we do in covering this case. Kylee says there has been zero respect for Officer John O'Keefe. And man, ain't that the truth? There's never been a more true statement. And that man deserves respect. His family deserves the same peace and justice and sense of, potential healing that any other victim's family does. And man, None of that is being delivered. But I got to tell you, Karen Reed's defense team is on fire. Do you guys agree? Somebody said, thank God she can pay for those defense attorneys. She's now millions of dollars in debt. She was well off before. She was financially stable. And, you know, yeah, thank God she can afford those defense attorneys because she's needed them. I mean, it was, you know, ostensibly a close call in the first trial.
Should get these recommendations as well. They certify and decertify police officers across the state. We're live here.
Okay, so what happened today was there was that most recent hearing, and I think it sounds as though this is a final one, unless they have to call another one for clarification or something. In the misconduct hearing of Trooper Michael Proctor, who is now on a cushy paid leave with his $187,000 a year salary, doing jack squat, other than being a juvenile pig, from what I can tell about this man. And this hearing is not open to the public by law. It is not open to the media. It is a closed door hearing. And what was determined in this hearing today, or what was presented in this hearing today, is now going to go to a board that oversees law enforcement in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And then from there, a determination will be further made about his fate. I mean, I would bet the ranch that he's done in law enforcement, but you never know. You never know. So I want to play a little bit from one of our favorite attorneys who talks about cases on YouTube, other than the Tilted Lawyer, of course, we love. We also have the Lawyer You Know, and I also love Lawyer Lee, as a lot of you know. But he talked about the situation with Proctor and, you know, what he did and the state of his job a while ago. This was about 6 months ago when he was first taken off of, well, here, let's just listen to Peter talk about it, because he does better. He'll do better than me. So again, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know. Great channel. I'm sure you're probably all familiar with it. He's got a great following because he does great work. If you're not, definitely go subscribe. You'll love it.
Get into it. We're saying just transferred or rehomed, as has been used in this trial. But it is
okay. I got to go back a little. This is this is exactly what I wanted to get.
Keeps 184.
Oh, Peter says it's $184,000 salary. Okay.
The heading in the title of this article, it says, Karen Reed, lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor, relieved of duty, keeps $184,000 pay. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? I can't wait to hear what you guys think of that. But he's been relieved of duty, and they have removed him from his current post. People are saying just transferred or rehomed, as has been used in this trial. But it is worse than that. It is more than that. It is worse than that. Yes, everybody, it is about 100 degrees outside, but it's nice and chilly in my office, how I like to keep it. So a hoodie is always around. I always keep it on my couch over there in case I need it. So people are saying, yeah, he got a paid vacation. Right. For all of his good deeds, he gets a paid vacation. So let's take a read of this article. And there's another article I want to read before we get to the video of the colonel. Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor, the lead investigator on the Karen Reed murder case, has been relieved of duty effective immediately. Reed, 44, of Mansfield, is charged with secondary murder, leaving the scene of the accident, resulting in death, and manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence, which included the lesser subordinate charge related to January 29, 2022, death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. The jury could not reach a verdict, and a mistrial was declared Monday. Here's a quote. Upon learning today's result, so it's almost as if they were waiting to see the result of the trial. The department took immediate.
I just have to say this. I just commented to Sub Rosa. I said, I think it's just the turtle. And I got a message saying that YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. Try changing your comment a little bit. Okay. But anyway, back to, sorry, he was saying important stuff, but.
Immediate action to relieve Trooper Michael Proctor of duty and formally transfer him out of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office State Police Detective Unit.
Now, I think he makes a point of this here, but they waited until the verdict of the trial was in, and they found it was a mistrial with all kinds of clusterfucks all over the place. And then they took the formal action to put him on a paid vacation and announce it as a matter of public interest. Very interesting, isn't it?
Okay. So what really hits me about this quote is we wanted to take immediate action. It's like we've known about these texts. Well, we haven't collectively because I didn't know until the trial, but the proverbial we, including you all making this decision, not you all, the chat, the leaders over there at MSP, they knew about this. They did not take immediate action. If they would have taken immediate action, we would have all known about it and the jury would have known about it. We'll talk about what immediate action really would have looked like and what it looks like now. And this quote was from a Massachusetts State Police spokesperson. This follows our previous decision to open an internal affairs investigation after information about serious misconduct emerged in testimony at trial. This investigation is ongoing. So these are kind of two different avenues. He has been relieved of his duties and transferred out. But also, the internal affairs investigation is still happening. It's still happening. And we're going to talk about what the potential outcomes of that IA investigation could be. But at this point, you know what he's not doing is investigating murders and serious crimes for the Norfolk County DA's office. And that is important because you work your way up there to be a detective there. And it seems like he's losing that. Now, I don't know if you guys remember like the Catholic priest in the old days when these molestation charges would come down and lawyers like myself would sue them and there would be settlements or they would go to trial or whatever would happen. One of the things that was uncovered is these priests would be like transferred from one parish or church to another. They wouldn't even be fired. They wouldn't be shunned. They wouldn't go to
This is such a good point he's making here.
jail. They would just transfer them around. And I hope that's not what's happening here to Michael Proctor, where they just transfer him somewhere else where he's just going to do the same thing over and over again.
And so let's just think about that example he was giving in the Catholic Church. And nothing, I grew up Catholic, nothing against that. It's not a discussion of religion, but we do know, some of the crimes that were committed against children, right? And rather than, is an organization, as a body, is an entity in our culture that's a cornerstone of the lives of so many people. You would think, a church would stand up and do the right thing and say, my God, well, this has been brought to public attention and wrong has been done. But finally, we are going to follow our values and, our God's word and do what is right. It's an example for all of the souls in our parish and in our religion and, and all throughout humanity. And we're going to make sure that there are consequences for these priests that injured children and that there's some right made out of that wrong. But largely, we all know, guys, that wasn't the case. And I think it's such a good parallel to, the law enforcement community. And of course, I'm making generalizations here, though, Bear. I would not be surprised if they just kept shoving him around and brushing him under rugs and giving him that big cushy pay, right, Callista? And, taxpayers are paying, taking away from the money that could be going towards the resources to solving the death of Officer John O'Keefe, who deserves justice, and so does his family more than anything. We could be putting that $200,000 a year towards that. I mean, come on now, people. At some point, y'all, you gotta stand up and do the right thing, or you may as well just sit down because I ain't listening to you anymore. But unfortunately, that's going on way too much. So Callista says, plus the police unions have so much sway control. It's very hard for law enforcement to lose pay after they do awful things, just get put on permanent paid vacation. Yeah, that's funny. I don't know if I want to make this a parallel to my own life, but like in the field I work in, there's a similar sort of, I was talking to somebody today and we were just talking about some personnel issues that we've observed in the past. And she's like, I'm not going to repeat it. It gets too close to home. But yeah, never mind. Made me think of that. Have to be professional and responsible here. Subrosa says, I think she'll be acquitted. I think technically she already was acquitted. I just like to say everyone is guilty. Yeah. I mean, now you raise such a good point, but this is going to get into one of those intricacies that we're going to have to do a whole segment and topic on, is that the judge's failure to poll the jurors after they declared they were a hung jury, and a mistrial was going to have to be declared. That is a huge, huge thing. That is the result that in the justice system people work so hard to avoid that because it's a total waste of resources. It's also a morally, ethically, and legally nebulous area to be in. And most people, attorneys, law enforcement agents, judges, do not want to be caught in that space. And, the resolution of a mistrial like that is no resolution. There's no justice. There's no peace. There's no forward movement. There's no closure. There's no sense of completeness for the community and for the citizens, and let alone the family members and the victims. It's just a shit show all around. We do not want hung juries. It's the thing. It's like the black plague of all possible outcomes in the justice system. But here we sit with that in this case. Sub Rosa accurately says they voted to acquit on 2 out of the 3 charges. And, in saying voted to acquit, from what I understand, the technical detail of that was in those 2 out of 3 charges. At least 2 or 3 or possibly 4 of those jurors were like, because it's, it's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or not guilty, right? Where they're not proving innocence. You can't prove innocence really in the justice system. And that's not really what it's designed for. It's just you either guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, you have to meet that legal standard, or not. You meet the standard or you don't. So in 2 of the 3 charges, there were jurors who said there is no fucking way we were going to find her guilty on those charges. And we were firm at standing our ground, which means there is no way there could have been a conviction on those charges, which leads to a very interesting and kind of scary legal question, since we are looking ahead now to the retrial of Karen Reed. Whoops, you can't even see my little pulsating person there. Okay, that was weird. Which is the issue of double jeopardy. Because if that judge did her job, and it seems like such a simple thing to do, right? Poll the jurors. My God, you have the worst possible outcome from one of the biggest cases of the decade, let alone just the year, 2024. You think you would be thorough enough to poll the jurors. It's done all the time. There's no legal problem with doing that. In fact, some consider it to be good practice. Well, she didn't do that. So that issue of possible double jeopardy was also kind of left out there to fray and splay in the wind, with way too many loose ends hanging out there. Because when we start to question our right to not be prosecuted twice for the same crime in a democracy, then we need to question everything, because it is fundamental. It is the core of our right to due process, which which protects us from being recklessly accused, convicted, tried, tarred, and feather for any old random arbitrary crime that the powers that be want to pin on you for whatever reason they want to do it, because I don't know, you just opened a pizza shop that's competing with their favorite pizza shop and they don't like it. Their favorite pizza shop might have to close down, but they have some good memories there. They really like their pizza. No other pizza shop makes that pizza that you can just fold up with all that oregano and grease. And oh my God, my kids are going to freak out if we don't have that pizza shop. So we have to eliminate the competition. Well, I have a solution to that. I'm going to pin this crime on them. I'm going to convict them. They're going to go away. No questions asked. We cannot live in a society where that happens, because what that is called, my friends, is barbaric, right? I mean, it's what separates a civilized society from like medieval times and anarchy. I'm going to step down off my soapbox there. Hello, Plant Enchantress says that judge is corrupt. Auntie Bev wanted to get that jury out of there ASAP. I don't disagree with you. Why do you say that? I really would love to know more what you think about this. You know what? And we have kind of a small group live here. I'm going to put the link to panel up. If anyone wants to come up and just discuss this with me as we go along, I would love for you to do that. So really and truly, take that as a very sincere invitation. I invite you to come up so we can talk about this together. People must get sick of just hearing me go on and on. In fact, I know they do because they tell me so all the time. So come help a sister out. Let's talk together. There you go, guys. And then so funny. It's like I have to pin it on StreamYard. Then I have to hop over to YouTube, or I'm sorry, I have to post it to actually pin it. So just give me a moment to make all that happen. Here we go. And then I get the reverb. And if y'all could just take a moment and hit like, please, I would so much appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys are here. All right. Link to panel. Pin that, baby. Pin. Yeah. All right. So please, again, feel free. Come on up. I would love for you to come up. So far, we have 46 votes in response to the question, is Karen Read responsible? Oops. A lot of interaction going on here. Is Karen Read responsible for the death of her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe? With 47 votes, 48 votes, 21% of you say yes, she is, and 79% of you say no, she's not. And I want to hear from both sides. I just think this really is just the most interesting case. Let's see. Kylee says, yeah, well, sounds like another case we know, no closure. Yeah, got you there. Then there's all this conspiracy around the jury itself being tainted. Yes, there is all that too. And again, that's going to have to be a whole separate subtopic. Because, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Plant Enchantress says she didn't pull them on purpose. She also has ties to the family in the house. Oh, she refused to step down. Yeah, she was given a nice outlet because I mean, either she was really playing for a team or she frankly was not qualified to preside over that trial, in my humble opinion. And I do say humble because who am I to say so? But I mean, y'all, if you watch it, you know, if you know, you know, and if you haven't yet, you're going to get a taste of it in a few here. Oh, hey, Sub Rosa, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, right. Susan Peterson, hey, how are you doing? I can't believe you're going to be getting snow possibly in South Carolina. Oh my gosh. Says that's why they dropped the charge to second degree. They think the next jury will find her guilty of a lesser charge. Yeah, I mean, I think that was one wise move the prosecution made. And again, they're going to have another prosecutor here. That prosecutor that prosecuted Karen Read in the first trial, first of all, he was as dry as like chalk in the desert. But the way he went about questioning his own witnesses and then cross-examining them, you really, really got the feeling that he didn't believe his own theory of the crime. And, you know, a prosecutor's job, we have to remember, is not to go out there and win a prosecution to get a conviction. A prosecutor's job is to be a champion and advocate, an instrument of justice for the society and the people they serve. So a prosecutor, if they don't believe in the theory of their case as they are laying it out and trying somebody, they shouldn't be prosecuting it. It's as simple as that. And there was like no sense of conviction behind anything she said. He said, I mean, sorry. All right. So, oh God, there's so much more that could be said, guys. And there's going to be, again, there's so much more we're going to be discussing about this case, but I really just kind of want to start to dive into the testimony of Michael Proctor here. And again, if you're easily offended, listen, it's coming out exactly the way it did on court TV as a trial rolled out. I'm not making any redactions or beeps or, you know, niceties for YouTube. The words are just going to be spoken. So, you know, if you're like, maybe you got kids in the room or, you know, so I just want you to know that. Okay. So it's just going to be like this is going to be raw testimony. So you can make your decisions from there. All right, let's see here. And please, guys, I would love for you guys to come up. Oh, wait, hold it. Okay, before we go into that, Okay. Let me see if this is what I think it is. Oh God, there's so much. Okay, there's two short clips, like 2 minutes each. One about the dog bite and the expert, and another one here that I just want to introduce to you before we go into the testimony of Trooper Michael Proctor, just to give it the context that I really want you to have to get the most out of listening to this, because hopefully you won't have to do it more than once.
A number of Karen Reed's retrial is set to start in the spring, and we're starting to see how it might be different from her first trial. The new lead attorney for the prosecution is looking to disqualify a number of the defense witnesses. NBC 10's John Maroney joins us from Norfolk Superior Court with a look at some of these new developments as we approach the second trial. John.
Glenn, no two trials are alike, and that appears to be the case with this one.
I'm not somebody that just came in off the street.
Dog bite expert Dr. Marie Russell, one of 3 defense witnesses prosecutors hope to keep off the stand in the next Karen Reed trial. Reed's accused of killing her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, and leaving him to die in a blizzard.
It's not surprising to me at all that with new lawyers on the case and fresh looks at the evidence, that they're making a determination as to which pieces of evidence they think they have a real chance of excluding.
The other witnesses include a forensic expert who challenged the infamous Google search, "How long to die in the cold?" as well as 2 accident reconstructionists who undercut the state's version of how John O'Keefe died.
And it shows an abject fear of the evidence. I mean, it is kind of surprising and shocking.
Judge Beverly Cannoni will decide if the witnesses testify. She said okay at the first trial, and legal analyst Michael Coyne says that could create problems if she says no this time around.
It does put her in a difficult point to be able to now reverse herself. And I don't think that's likely to happen.
Special ADA Hank Brennan is now leading the state's case. He plans to cut down on the number of witnesses and brings a different style than Adam Lally in the first trial.
Hank's approach is almost like an everyman's approach. He's understated. I think that he's very, very quick on his feet. I think he'll be well received by the jury.
Karen Reed's team remains intact, but she said Tuesday they're taking a second look as well.
We're going to retool everything, and maybe some things will stay similar, but we're going to shuffle a lot of things around.
Now, this could all be moot if the state's highest court throws out 2 of 3 charges against Karen Reed. We're still waiting for that ruling. 11 Dedham, John Maroney, NBC 10 Boston.
Okay, now... All right. Now, just a little more on the dog bite and the dog bite expert, because you have to understand this is the alternate theory by the defense. Now, I was talking about this last night with Kezchik, and, well, let me get to the point in the video. Hold it. Both she and I, unfortunately, I hope it's okay I'm sharing this story, Kez, unless you want to come up and tell it. One of her children, when they were young, suffered dog bites. And she was saying that they look exactly the same as these injuries on Officer John O'Keefe. And oh God, it was a terrible memory. I had a pit bull and got in a fight with a German Shepherd down the street. They was kind of taunting each other, but this German Shepherd got out. My Greyhound and my pit bull, I just had him outside. The Shepherd attacked my pit bull, and now, you know, owning a dog like that has the potential to do some damage if they get their teeth sunk into flesh. You know, I made sure I was always well trained in how to break up a dog fight. I'm not Superwoman, not that I could have done it perfectly every time, but I had some skills and strategies to know how to do it to protect other animals and people without getting maimed myself. The owner of the German Shepherd came out like a bat out of hell, screaming and just adding to the drama of it. Her dog started bugging out once he heard the owner, and she was freaking out. She literally went and dove right in the middle of that dog fight, and her arm and her calf were eviscerated. And it was terrifying. I thought my dog was going to get put down. We had to go to court and everything. They did impressions. It was this whole long, drawn out process. And I seriously thought about like moving the dog to Canada. I was like, I just can't. I know he's just such a wonderful little soul. Bali, I love that dog so much. He was a red-nosed pit bull. They were able to prove that all but like one and a questionable mark on her that wasn't even a bite was caused by her own dog. Not that her dog turned vicious against her, but that's what happens, my friends, when you insert your own flesh and bones in the middle of a dog fight, because animals will be animals. And anyway, having to go through all that, going to court and everything, I saw the pictures of her injuries because there was a freaking court case. So, that was part of the discovery. I cannot even tell you, and Keschik was saying the thing, how much these injuries look precisely like the evisceration on that woman's arms and legs. I mean, but hers, she survived, so there was still blood pumping through. So it, there was a different effect. But the question is, do these injuries look like they are created from being, hit by an SUV traveling in reverse at up to 24 miles an hour? Or do they look more like dog bites or something else? The theory of the defense, there is that specific theory of the dog bites. The owner of the home, the Alberts, where Officer John O'Keefe's body was found hours after anybody had seen him after they returned home from drinking. They were going to go to an after party at this other officer's house. His body was found in that front yard, interestingly enough. His body's found in the front yard of these folks' home. It's a crime scene, obviously. Wouldn't you think they would go and interview the people, go inside the house, see if there was any sign of a struggle or anything like that, of a crime being committed? Nope, they didn't. In fact, the man that lived there was a cop. He was trained as a first responder, and he knew what was going on outside of his house. Not only could he see it, and could he see the lights and the sirens and all of that, hear the sirens, his sister-in-law, who is there, right, sister-in-law Jen McCabe, came in and told him what was happening. He did not go out in his own front yard as a trained first responder to see if he could help out. I mean, that's insane. I'm certified in CPR, and if somebody is in distress anywhere in my radius, and even if I'm so not qualified, it's like so beyond that, I will run there because, oh my God, if I can do anything to help save someone's freaking life, yeah. And you hope that people who hold those kind of jobs are the kind of people are going to be like, duh, yeah, of course I'm going to run to the person whose life might be in jeopardy if they need life-saving measures, taken on them to save their life. He didn't even leave his freaking house. So anyway, they didn't go in the house. They didn't get a sense of if there was any kind of struggle or crime scene in there. But what we do know is the Alberts have a dog, a German Shepherd named Chloe. And Chloe has, much like the story, the reason I got so in depth in telling you that with my pit bull and that German Shepherd, and then the woman that got so injured because she got in the middle of the dog fight, Chloe has a history of sending people to the emergency room. And I think in both cases, it was started with a dog on dog fight. Is that right, guys? But then humans got involved, much like that woman, the owner of the German Shepherd that I was just speaking about. Brian Albert, the homeowner's owner himself, says at some point, he says, I was downstairs watching Chloe. Now, Chloe was supposed to have been upstairs, and people think he kind of slipped. So the very specific alternative theory of the defense is that something happened, some conflict or confrontation or accident happened within the Albert home, and the dog got involved, okay? And then John O'Keefe was taken to the front yard, and that's where the staging and the cover-up began, right? So that's why this is so super important.
Is that from the taillight? Is that from being struck by Karen Reed as she backed into him on purpose? Or is that from an animal? A German Shepherd named Chloe, who lived inside the home where Karen Reed says John O'Keefe went inside to go to that after party. That's the question. Now, in the first trial, there was a dog bite expert who testified for the defense. Let me remind you of what she told that jury.
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack.
And on what do you base the opinion that the injuries are consistent with dog bite or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical certainty. Very
All right. So the
high degree of
Reasonable medical certainty.
reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, definitely.
So
I think a high degree is higher than reasonable anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the expert that we saw and heard at trial. So the prosecution didn't have their own expert to talk about it. They had someone who said that, no, this is from the tail light. So we're going to bring in a dog bite expert. They were talking about it in court tonight. We're going to talk about it tonight. Joining us, an expert is a PhD in animal behavior, has studied it.
So this guy basically says, listen, those injuries were not from automobile versus man incident. They were from an animal, and these people are, really highly qualified experts. I mean, something else to know about Officer John O'Keefe, when his body was found, there was like almost literally, guys, and I know this is hard to imagine because he's found dead in the yard of, somewhere in a blizzard. There was hardly a single bruise on the man. One of the medical examiners, I think, who testified, described his body as being pristine in that regard, like no bruises, no broken blood vessels, other than when that was that break of the flesh that's due to, it could be due to impact or it could be due to a bite. But he explained if you have a break of the flesh that's due to an impact, like being hit with a fist or by an automobile, there's going to be bruising surrounding it because the blood's going to pool, right? It makes perfect sense. Kind of like Hestrick was saying, those are way too deep. Those are dog bites, that kind of like puncture mark incision that a dog might make may not, and oftentimes does not accompany that bruising, depending on, this is what the experts are saying, not me spewing off here as a non-expert, depending on the degree of the injury, but considering that Officer John O'Keefe perished in a certain time after these injuries were inflicted on him, the heart's not pumping anymore, the blood's not flowing through, lessening the chance of bruising being created. Oh my gosh. So again, I'm going to put the linked panel one more time here because we're going to start to listen to the testimony of Michael Proctor. And man, I just think somebody would jump at the chance to comment on this with me. Trust me, it's a good one. So, oops. Let's see. Well, I'll do that now. Let me get it playing, then I'm going to put it back up. But it is pinned there, okay? So I'm going to bring into the stream now the testimony of Michael Proctor. And again, this is unredacted, unedited. It is testimony raw. So if you have children in the room, I'm just going to say you might feel like it's not appropriate for the kids, all right? He says words that I've never said before. Some things I didn't even know what it meant. They're so grotesque and vulgar and yeah. All right, let's see, where did that go? Oh, he's so grody. All right. So we're not going to get through it all because there's a total of almost 4 hours, but we're going to start to dive into this today, all right? So without further ado, my friends, if you have yet to meet him, let me introduce you to the not so honorable Trooper Michael Proctor. Is this the one? I think so. Is that the one I just took down?
22117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Great. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. So a few things. First of all, let me ask you those 3 questions, please. Were you all able to follow the instructions?
Oh, wait. We've got Kylee backstage. I'm so excited about this. Let me just welcome her up and then we'll continue. Hey, Kylee girl, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Volume's
Okay,
awesome.
perfect.
Yeah, you sound
Hi.
good. Yeah, thank you so much for coming up. I've really enjoyed reading your opinions. When you've been in live streams talking about the Watts case mostly, I think, and I just can't wait to hear what you have to say about this one because it's clear that you know a lot about the case. And yeah. Oop, can you hear me? We'll let her. Sometimes it takes a minute to work out audio stuff. Can you hear me, girl? Try talking. Here, I'm gonna play this. I'll pause it in a moment because I can't hear you speaking right now. If you want to hop down and hop back up, or maybe you'll know how to adjust it. I'm just gonna play this. I'll check back in with you in a minute.
Refrain from discussing this case with anyone suspected or not. Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to?
Let me get through the niceties and all that crap. Is he up yet? Okay. All right. This is Attorney Jackson, who's going to be questioning Michael Proctor.
May I approach?
Yes.
All right. Get through the approach and all that.
Wouldn't mind to turn to tab 2 in the binder in front of you.
He's coming right out of the gate, my friends.
That's my guy.
Yeah. Oh, good. I can
you
hear
take
you.
a look at the face page of,
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
under tab 2 and tell me if you recognize that.
Yeah, he's good, man.
Yes, sir. It's a private text thread with high school friends.
And this includes 9 participants, 9 chat participants that you engaged with.
That's correct.
Those participants include people by the name of Bird, Whitey, and Doc, correct?
Correct.
And then there's some other folks in there. They're identified by at least the last 4 digits of their phone number, correct?
Yes.
So this is a group text.
Let me reiterate this. This is he's just saying again, a group text between Trooper Michael Proctor, who is, he was, given the position of being the lead detective on this case from moment 1. He was up. And this is a text exchange, Facebook Messenger between himself and 10 of his high school buddies, that the bulk of it in the beginning part of the testimony here is just 16 hours after the death of Officer O'Keefe. Have you listened to all of this, Kylee?
Oh yes, I watched this entire trial. So
oh my God. Were you like jaw on the floor the first time you heard all this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And actually I think this was the section that made me want to watch the trial, because I saw this happening live. And then I went all the way back. I'm like, oh man, I got to see what's going on here.
Yeah,
So,
you're like, where in God's name did this come from? Yeah, right? Like, what kind of animal bred this? Yeah. All right, let's let everyone hear. Oh my gosh, it's just so horrifying. But yeah, I mean, it is, a life was lost here, and we will never lose sight of that. But this is good court, and these attorneys are damn good. And I mean Karen Reed's attorneys.
Or a group chat with you and 8 of your high school friends about this investigation, correct?
Yes.
Trooper Proctor, you never thought when you were engaged with these other 8 individuals that this particular set of chats would ever become public, did you?
No, I do not.
I want to take a look at page 2527. If you could turn, that's on the bottom right of the document in tab 2. Do you recognize, I'm sorry, do you have that page in front of you?
Yes, sir.
You recognize that this group chat was taking place on January 29th at about 10:52 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And the person that I'll identify as 5051, that's the last 4 digits of that phone number, indicates Chip, name of that BPD cop, correct?
Correct.
First of all, you indicated on Monday that you're Chip, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You responded at 10:53 p.m., John O'Keefe, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you were willing to tell, just a few hours into an investigation of the death of a Boston police officer, you were willing to tell a bunch of high school buddies details about the investigation, including the name of the victim, correct?
At this point, it was 16 hours later, sir. Not a few.
16 is a few hours, correct? I'm not talking.
Dude, right out of the gate. How dare Michael Proctor, quip at him about that? It was 16 hours, sir, not a few. Knowing what this attorney is going to have him read with his own dirty mouth, the words that he said, that for the nerve of him to even put up a qualm about that, it's just unbelievable to me.
He had to get that in before they dropped the ball on it. Or the bomb, I don't know. Yeah. He had to get that petty in really quick.
It was the only punch he could get in, and it hit like a wet noodle.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, this is crazy. All right.
About days later.
It was about 16 hours later, sir.
Correct. And you identified John O'Keefe as the Boston police officer who was fallen in the yard at 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
You also informed, if you will skip to page 2529, you also informed these same folks, these same high school buddies that, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP, correct?
Yes.
You knew, Trooper Proctor, that there was brass that wanted this case wrapped up quickly and efficiently. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Oh, well, is that what you were thinking?
No, the people wanted answers, sir.
They didn't just want answers. They wanted answers ASAP. What does ASAP mean?
That's as soon as possible.
Right. And you were texting this to your high school friends, again, 16 hours into this investigation, right?
Correct.
And you knew at that time, Trooper Proctor, that this was not going to implicate in any way, shape, form, or fashion another cop, correct?
Correct.
In this text exchange, let's turn to 2532, actually. You have that in front of you?
I do.
In this text
Yeah,
exchange,
I just want to pick up this comment here and say something about it. So, J-Man, welcome. How are you doing? Said 16 hours to arrive at only one suspect. Every legit detective would need to see the actual crime in progress to rule out anyone else in less than a day. And remember, they didn't even interview or go deeper into the property or into the house of the property on which the fallen officer's body was found. They did not interview any of those residents of that home at that time. In fact, I think at this time they had spoken to, and I mean, I feel it's questionable if you could even call them interrogations or interviews. They had spoken to, I think, a total of 3 people as connected to this case. You know,
They were interviews at their own leisure, basically.
Right.
You know, he scheduled all of them. And there's so many players in this case, but basically all the people in the house, you know, and I don't know if I want to say he interviewed some of them months later, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
And like some super key players, it was like 2 months and 3 days or something like that. Because I just
And they decided when and where, and you know, they were together. And there's so many names, but the big one is Jen McCabe. And so she was kind of the puppet master behind the scenes. So she was getting, you know, this one to come do the interview at her house, or I'm going to come to your house while you do your interview. It was crazy.
And then his was offering Proctor's sister gifts for him after the result of the interview apparently went favorable for these people. Did you catch that?
Oh, yes, I did.
Oh my gosh. Here,
yes, everything. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Everything that, you know, a lot of these cases, it's hard not to go conspiracy, but with this one, it's all laid out. And it's not just things that you're making up in your head. I mean, it's all there to see. It's a cover-up. It's a cover-up.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, because I tend to not go the conspiracy route on things when other people are, even when it's a lot of times going against the flow, and sometimes bad for the channel because I'm just not going to go there if my heart and my like logical mind aren't there. But here, man, this isn't conspiracy. This is this is being sensical. What we would normally call conspiracy is applying logic and sound reason, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and I'm pulling up I'm glad you said that about the complex web of people, because I'm pulling up kind of a chart of the relationships. I think that'll come in handy, so thank you. Okay, I'm going to play.
There's another channel too. I'm sorry. There's another channel too called Microdots, and I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I'm not.
But they have done great work on this case, and especially for people that are not familiar with it at all, he makes these like less than 20-minute videos, and their 3D animations are actually incredible.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so he basically just lays out, you know, summaries of the case. So if you ever need to have quick summaries, it's really great, and it has great visuals too.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you said that. I'm going to definitely reach out to him and ask if I can have permission to
Yes.
use some of his clips. That's wonderful because, I mean, I don't need to recreate the wheel. And I know some people have done some great summaries on this case, so I would like to find them. So if anybody else has any, tips like that, please let me know. I'd be happy to connect with those people and share their stuff with you.
Yes.
10:56 p.m. Your buddy Bird writes, "I'm sure the owners of the house will receive some shit." Correct?
Correct.
How did you take that to mean? Did you take that to mean that he could get in trouble?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what my friend was getting at.
Well, you had some idea.
Yeah,
Said the owners of the house isn't going to get any shit for this, right?
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you interpreted it like he's not going to get in any trouble. He's not going to be a suspect, correct?
Correct.
And he's not going to be implicated in any way. Is that right?
Correct.
And your answer was one word, correct?
Yes.
What was that word?
No.
Nope.
And then you followed that up with an explanation as to why you said no, didn't you?
That wasn't the explanation why I said nope. I simply said homeowner's a Boston cop too, meaning Mr. O'Keefe was a Boston cop. The homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
The question that preceded your answer, nope, the homeowner's a Boston cop too, was the homeowner's going to get some shit for this, correct?
That's not what I meant with that text.
That's what you wrote.
Not what I meant, sir.
All right, let's take it in order. Question. Oh goodness, the homeowner's going to get some shit for this. Answer, nope. Next text, he's a Boston cop too. That doesn't sound like an explanation for your nope.
No, that's just saying he's a Boston cop as well. Mr. O'Keefe is a
And that's
Boston
why
cop.
he's not going to get any shit, correct, Trooper Proctor?
Well, he's not going to receive any shit, sir, because Mr. Albert, the homeowner, had nothing to do with Mr. O'Keefe's death.
And you knew
Oh
this.
my God. Now, what Karen Reed really needs to do is I hope that they are advising her to put on her poker face in the next trial, because I understand that I'm the same way. I wear my emotions on the face. I do not have a good poker face. And I know that. But if I were on trial and my life was depending on it, life in prison or freedom, I would practice my poker face every moment of every day until I had to go on stage, because her expressions make her appear, I think, unlikable. Not that it should necessarily matter, but we know it has an impact on the way jurors think.
Oh, her resting bitch face is definitely a topic of conversation with a lot of people.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me at all. I personally think that she's just a strong, strong woman. She's
being authentic,
independent. Yeah. She's a boss bitch. So basically, but I know that a lot of people have a hard time with her expressions and I don't know. I don't know. What could you do? How would you act? I don't really know.
That is hard. And I think I would probably tend to do the same thing she's doing. From my perspective, where I noticed that from is I didn't start following this case immediately as it was building up to the trial. And even in the beginning stages of the trial, about like halfway through the trial, I got a taste of it and I was like, oh, I'm all in, because how can you not be, right? But
exactly.
Dude, there's like a really... I might have to go check something out really quick. Hold it. Here, let me finish this thought. There's like a really, really bright light outside my house right now. I'm a little confused what's going on. Wait, I got to check that out. Just 1 second, okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. What is going on?
Scary.
Geez. Yeah.
Jay, I'm looking at chat. I'm excited you got a new computer.
Here, I'm gonna play this for a minute, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
16 hours into your investigation.
Yes.
Less than a day.
Yes.
To your satisfaction.
To my satisfaction and to the members of my unit.
So let him finish. We didn't get. Finish your answer.
To my satisfaction and to all the members of my unit who investigated that day.
Objection. calls for speculation.
So I'm going to let it stand. Trooper Proctor, you have to keep your voice up, okay? Jurors need to hear you way back there.
Yes, ma'am.
The fact of the matter is, you hadn't been to the crime scene by the time you wrote this text, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't been inside the home, correct?
No.
You had you had questioned a grand total of 3 percipient witnesses at this point, correct?
Yes.
And 2 of the 3 were named McCabe, right?
Correct.
And 1 of the 3 was named Albert, correct?
Yes.
And it's against that backdrop that you wrote, nope, the homeowner's not going to get any shit because he's a cop, right?
That's not what I meant by that.
At 10:57, Bird goes on to write, he, the homeowner, must have been a puddle to accomplish that. And then he writes, who's the homeowner? And then he writes, I hope not, but I can see it. Correct?
Yes.
A puddle means drunk, correct?
That's a term for it, yes.
In other words, Bird wrote that the homeowner must have been so drunk, so wasted to have killed him. Correct?
Objection.
Do you know what that means? Do you know what that text means?
Just the puddle part, Your Honor. The term, that term.
All right, so he can answer that.
And the puddle part means drunk or wasted, right?
Yes.
And what Bird actually wrote was, he must have been a puddle to accomplish that. Correct?
That's what he wrote.
And then you write back, quote, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital, right?
Correct.
You used the phrase waffled about a Boston police officer who had fallen in the snow and died in someone's yard. And you decided to use the word waffled him, correct?
Objection.
So sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Did you answer, she waffled him, I looked at his body at the hospital?
I did answer that, yes.
And then Bird questioned, she waffled him, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, he was banged up. Is that right?
Yes.
Then a person with the phone number 009, she waffled him.
And we saw Mr. O'Keefe's body at the hospital with Sergeant Buchanan and I. We saw his injuries and we were kind of working through how these injuries occurred.
As a matter of fact, both you and Sergeant Buchanan believed that he had suffered the injuries as a result of a physical altercation based on information you received from the paramedics initially, correct?
Wow.
Initially, we didn't know what we had. We knew there was some significant injuries to Mr. O'Keefe. And we were still figuring out how those injuries occurred.
Well, you just testified. Initially, we didn't know what we had.
Right.
But 16 hours after the fact, you wrote the following sentence. That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Correct?
Correct.
So initially, you did think you knew what you had. A physical altercation leading to a death. Correct?
Correct.
So when you just said, initially we didn't know what we had, that wasn't quite true. You did at least have an idea of what you thought you had, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
All right. You were aware initially that John O'Keefe had suffered a 2-inch laceration to the back of his head, correct?
Yes.
That resulted in a skull fracture, correct?
Correct.
He had a laceration over his right eye, small laceration just under the eyebrow, correct?
Yes.
Had a laceration on his nose. Is that right?
Correct.
He had patterned scratches on his right arm, abrasions, scratches, correct?
Yes.
And he had no injuries below the neck.
Not that I observed, sir.
Not a single broken bone, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single fracture, correct?
Not that I was aware of.
Not a single bruise below the neck, right?
Not that I observed.
Looks a lot like a physical altercation, doesn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Bird writes, Bear, let's focus, correct?
Yes.
Who's Bear?
That's another nickname I have.
0095 writes, what does she waffled him mean? And then Bird writes, what's the story, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, she hit him with her car. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, in your experience, have you ever seen a pedestrian who's hit by a 6,000-pound car with no bruises? Ever?
The pedestrian strikes I've seen have been at high speeds,
And that's
60
enough
plus.
to put a person out of the shoe, right?
60 plus miles per hour. So I can't recall right now off the top of my head as far as injuries in the past pedestrian strikes I've attended.
Okay. So someone, you indicated on Monday, under examination by Mr. Lally, you've seen a shoe missing.
Correct.
Pedestrian strikes, correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as the miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
Trooper Proctor, let me ask you the question again. Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever in your experience seen a vehicle, pedestrian incident, in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Next question.
After you wrote, she hit him with her car, 5051 writes, oh, Jesus. And Bird writes, okay.
So again, they're saying, there was no bruises, right? And he's, just to answering that question, he just is like, placed on like, oh, I can't remember, the defense is really able to lay out a very good case. Not that they have to prove a case at all, they just have to present reasonable doubt, but they really put up in just defending her a good alternative theory case, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. And actually, I'm writing notes right now because I didn't realize how I missed this the first time, but I did not know that he had theorized that it was a physical altercation within less than 24 hours before changing it. That is actually new information for me.
That is, I'm glad you brought that up. I was trying to see what was going on outside my house. I realized we talked about that part. Yeah. So he just, so think about what Kylie's saying here. He just admitted on the stand that his first theory between himself and the other officer who was responding and who he was conferring with was that there was a physical altercation before anything else. And he had to admit that because there was evidence of it.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And then the waffle thing, there's that respect I was talking about.
Right. Yes. Oh my God.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'll notice throughout this trial, they do not refer to him as Officer John O'Keefe. I mean, they're very lax about how they address him, which I just think is offensive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that. I think it is as well. I mean, just, the desecration that's been done to his memory and his name and the sense of importance of justice that we must reach for this man. It's shameful. It really is.
A fellow Boston or fellow Massachusetts cop and this is how they're, speaking on him. But my mind is still blown about the altercation thing like that. There's so many things that you can stack up about, on this case, but that one is big for me. That one is really big for me.
That one is big. Thank you so much for pointing that out because that is a really big one. All right, I'm going to play a little more of this for you guys. Get this one warmed up, babies.
That's fucked up.
Oh, hey, listen, when the audio is playing, his testimony is playing, would you mind muting your mic? Do you know how to do that?
I do. I can't find that on here. So let me mess around with it.
No. I can do it from my end. But I just, when I press pause, I will unmute you just because I have to do it because you get background noise,
Yes, I couldn't find the mute button. That's why I jumped out because I was trying to find it.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
My end. Okay.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
0095 then chimes in, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark. Correct?
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove, correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted you would have zero proof of, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Did you mean by that statement that this was one of several things that you knew we would not be able to prove?
That statement, that's another animal we won't be able to prove, references the intentional or not part.
You didn't care at that point when you wrote that, you didn't care what you could or could not prove, did you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Isn't that what you meant?
No. I
had a narrative that you had developed and you would pursue it no matter what the proof was. That's what you meant by that statement, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently, Mr.
Did you mean by that, thank you, Your Honor, I didn't mean to step on your words. Did you mean by that statement that you were going to pursue this case no matter what the proof might be?
What I meant by that statement was if Ms. Reed backed into Mr. O'Keefe intentionally or not.
Interestingly, though, that statement came on the heels of he was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him. And you wrote in response to that question, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
That's not what I was responding to. I was responding to the intentional or not part.
So you were responding to your own statement.
Correct.
Okay. 0095 then writes, what's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved. Correct?
Yes.
In other words, that person was asking, tell me the name of the homeowner. Isn't that right?
Yes.
The guy that's the cop, right?
Correct.
And you ignored that question for a second time. Is that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, not one time, not once in this entire group chat did you disclose the name Brian Albert, did you?
I don't believe so, no.
You were actively trying to hide Brian Albert's name, at least from this conversation.
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you were trying to do?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I want to pick up on this. I'll unmute you here, Miss Kylee. So, this is just kind of a side thing, but not. So, okay, yeah. So, you're the one that said this, Kylee. It says, dude, was throwing out objections, every other question, see what sticks. It bothers me that it just falls on Bev's discretion. And that bothered me throughout this whole trial. I feel she used way too much discretion. Like, my idea of a judge is not that, okay, an attorney makes an objection, you rule on it, you sustain it, or you overrule it. And sometimes you give some modifying guidance on how to proceed. But the judge is not the counselor, is not the mentor, is not the coach of the opposing attorneys here. And I feel that the position she took upon herself to have in this trial was to be that coach. Well, I'll allow it. And then she rephrases it. I've never seen anything like it.
I have never seen anything like it. It is very frustrating watching throughout the trial. And it's almost just like, she doesn't have to give a reason. It's just like, oh, because I said so. That's it. You don't have any explanation as to why. It's just it is what it is. And he really was just objecting every other question, pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean, he might as well just been objecting every question,
And I just had to check this. I was going to ask you, but I was second guessing myself when I was thinking about this, because I was saying in my mind, well, at least we're not going to have to endure her for the second trial. Then I was like, no, wait, she is going to be the judge for the second trial. And she is scheduled to be the presiding judge over the next trial, correct?
Yeah, she's not budging. She's not going anywhere. I mean, she has dug her feet in the sand. I mean, she's because they tried to get her out for the first one too. And I don't know if you discussed that.
Getting her out into the civil court?
Well, they were trying to remove her from the initial trial because they had found some connection, and there was a preliminary hearing on it, and she acted almost offended by it. So that was kind of a little indication of how things were going to go.
Oh God, I totally forgot about that. See, this case, the whole thing is so sordid. It's like I can't even recall back to some of the earliest signs of corruption and, failure to execute justice because there's just so many.
Does anybody remember in chat what exactly the connection was before the initial trial? Because I know there was another issue, and see, now this is like so convoluted, where somebody had said something online about, and this is where the anti-Bev nickname comes from, because one of the players had made a comment, and you haven't talked about Turtle Boy. That's a whole other
we're going to
side of this.
Yeah.
But basically threatening him and saying that they were going to do something to him and then stash him at Auntie Bev's condo or holiday home or whatever it was. And I don't remember if that was the pre-trial, but there was a couple of incidents where it was a little concerning as to who Bev was connected to.
Yeah. No, I do remember that. I can't remember the connection either. I'm trying to look it up right now. Here, I'm going to play this a little more. I'm going to look into that while this is playing because I want to know now.
But you had no problem sharing John O'Keefe's name with your buddies from high school, right?
Correct.
And you had no problem sharing Karen Reed's name with your buddies from high school, correct?
I don't believe I named the defendant.
Not yet, you didn't. Later in the chat.
Okay, correct.
5051 then writes, the BPD have any jurisdiction here because it was their own? Question mark. Is that right?
Yes.
And a few texts
Yeah,
later,
I want to
you
answer
look down
that
a few.
question. They come up, and then he responds saying that no. What actually happened was the Boston Police Department got conflicted out because it was one of their own men. It was on the property of one of their own men as well, one of their own officers. But anyway, I want to answer the question we just posed. Jay May, you have some really great information, by the way. I've been noticing that, and thank you so much. Jay May says, and to answer the question Kylee and I were just talking about,
Yes.
Judge Bev's brother defended Chris Albert in his trial for killing a man while driving under the influence. Now, Chris Albert is the brother of Brian Albert, who is the homeowner of the house upon which Officer John O'Keefe was found dead in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022. Yeah. And then Jay May says, because if that's not enough, let's see. And I've been reading what you've said all along, and I'm finding Jay May to be very accurate. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Yes.
I haven't necessarily looked into all of this, but I'm just trusting this source for now. And she rented her vacation house to a friend of the Alberts. Well, ain't it a small world, Jay May and Kylee?
There it is. There it is. I knew somebody would know. And then, yes. Okay. So Chris Albert. And then we have to talk about Colin Albert, who was also in the home that night. And he is highly suspect in whatever physical altercation.
I'm going to bring up this little chart thing here. All right.
Yes. There's so many people.
I'm going to make my own visual because I'm a very visual person. I love doing those visual timelines and stuff for you. And this one is great here, but it's not like totally satisfying my brain. I just want to sharpen it up a little. So if you look in the but this person did amazing. My God, it's awesome.
Wow. Okay. This is cool.
If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you have Proctor, the jackass who's on the stand right now. Under him is Berkowitz, the police chief. What does it say here? Tail pieces, something tail light. Did he find the tail light peaches?
So there's a lot of speculation on the tail light being planted. Yes.
Yes.
And he found a piece randomly days later. I think that's the guy.
Yeah, they were finding pieces of that taillight plastic for days upon days upon days. I think that there were like 16 different findings of the taillight plastic. Now, mind you, that very night when Officer John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were with these other law enforcement officers and friends and family members at two different bars, the last one being the Waterfall, there is security camera footage of Miss Reed backing her Lexus SUV out of a parking spot, and it is very clear that she dings Officer John O'Keefe's car. I think he was in the car with her, but it was his car that she hit, which would have been enough for, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not like some accident like reconstructionist, but in my practical experience, it seems to me like if I did that, I might expect a little chip to be out of some piece of the plastic in my car. You know what I mean? There's just plausible explanations for all of this, and with the size of the damage to the car, you know, there were some experts coming on here who were accident reconstructionists who work for, you know, the National Hockey League and these big insurance companies and the FBI. There's an independent guy who comes up. He's an agency source, so he wasn't called by the defense or the prosecution, and he testified that even if you have you know, an accident where a car's going just a few meager miles an hour and you were to hit a standing human being, that oftentimes the bumper will dislodge. It will come loose somehow. It will be like not situated properly in its encasing on the car, and that almost always happens. Nothing like that happened to her car, and they are saying that they believe she hit him in reverse at 24 miles an hour.
There's actually a great video that Turtle Boy did, and that's another one that you might want to show down the line. He actually tried to recreate their theory. He went to the house.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, Turtle Boy has caused a lot of problems for the prosecution in the Commonwealth here. He's kind of led a whole movement, and he's a YouTuber.
Yep. He's the one that exposed a lot of this information based on what was out there. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't think a lot of this would be happening now, as far as Karen Reed being able to build the case that she has. And his whole thing was, and again, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but the big thing that he had uncovered was Jen McCabe's 2 a.m. or whatever time Google search. How long to die in cold.
How's long to die in the cold.
How's long. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I forgot what we were saying before that though, because there was another point, but I'll remember.
So we were looking at this chart, and I was saying, so Proctor's up there in the upper left-hand corner, then his sidekick Berkowitz is right under him. And it is largely believed that they planted pieces of the taillight plastic from Karen Reed's SUV. So next to him, they have Kevin Albert, and Kevin is, does it say? I don't know who he is. Let's see.
He's a cop. He's actually okay. Now I'm forgetting the name of the county.
Okay. So he's a Proctor connection. He's a coworker.
He's a wait. Is this Norfolk County? He's a Norfolk County cop. He's a cop.
And then there's Julie Albert and Chris Albert. Chris Albert is the brother of the homeowner of the property on which the body of fallen officer John O'Keefe was found, and he's also the one that the judge's husband allegedly helped getting him off of a charge for killing someone while driving under the influence. And then there's Brian Albert, who is the homeowner. He's a Boston Police Department officer. And then there is Nicole Albert, his wife, and her sister, Jen McCabe, and her sister's husband, Matt McCabe. Isn't Matt McCabe a cop too?
Yeah, I think so, but I know like a couple of things too with Brian Albert. He's kind of a little like locally famous. He was on a TV show, like a Boston cop TV show. So he's kind of got his own little like, I'm not going to say fame, but he's a big shot, you know, I guess in that area. And then Chris Albert, just a little information on him. He owns the pizza shop. And then, you know, yes. I believe the rest are cops. Brian Albert, Brian Albert is not a cop. He's just the son.
He's a homeowner.
I think.
Or no,
I got Brian Albert Jr. Sorry, Brian Albert Jr. And it was his birthday that night, so that's why they had people over.
And so he had a couple of female friends over, and that's also their dog is Chloe, the German Shepherd. And then there's Colin Albert, who's the son of Chris Albert, who was the one that apparently was helped to get off of that killing someone while driving under the influence charge. And Officer John O'Keefe had a little bit of beef with Colin Albert because he's a little bit of a punk ass bitch, and he would, be disrespectful on his property, and they got into some conflicts. And
There's a lot of speculation around that. There's a lot of speculation
on that. I'm actually going to see if I can find that clip of him with the KO bang bang.
Oh gosh, yes. And Jay May, yes. Chris Albert's a Canton City Councilman. So they all are big.
Comments there. She made a comment about, well, here, I think I got it. Okay, so cops were finding taillight pieces 4 trips over 3 weeks. Cops also lied about time they towed Karen Reed's car to Canton Police Department Sallyport after Canton was totally conflicted out of the case. And then they had that backwards fit. Oh my God, the mirrored image. Oh my God, it's so
There's
much.
so much. It's so much because you could just be like, oh yeah, and this, the inverted video.
I promise we're gonna break this all down. But if you are new to the case, you just stick with us. Keep coming back. It's one of those things. And if you think you know everything in this case, stick with us because we are going to dive as deep as you possibly can on all of this. I promise. It's a done deal. It's the new official WotC obsession.
And it's been a minute since I've got into this case. And I mean, I'm a true crime connoisseur, right? So I follow different cases, and this one obviously has died down for the moment. But I'm just remembering all this stuff now. So Jay May has the information.
Yeah. Can
you knows what's up.
Can you read a couple more comments there from anybody while I'm?
Yeah. So Jay says cops found twilight pieces 4 trips over 3 weeks.
Taillights.
Cops also, or taillights. I'm sorry. Cops also lied about the time that they towed Karen Reed's car. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The timing was all off. Jay, what was the exact time? He said he picked it up at 4 something, but it was an hour later, maybe. So that it gave Proctor an hour buffer to do whatever he needed to do, right?
Right.
And then, okay, so she said,
and he was in the Sallyport with her vehicle when they towed it, and they tried to hide that, and they think that's why they may have inverted that image.
They were both him and Bukaki or whatever his name is. They were over there chipping away at it or whatever it was that they were doing. So
guys, and what they did
was speculation.
What they did was when they had video footage in the Sallyport, which is the secured carport area of a police station, they had video of that. And to make it appear, this is what's believed happened, and everybody who testified said, yeah, that's the only way that could happen, man, because the timestamp is the right way and stuff. What they did was they inverted the image. So as you're looking at the car, it looks like if you were looking at it normally, that you are viewing the passenger side of the car. And it's the passenger side rear of the car where that little taillight damage was from, I speculate, whatever she hit that night when she was pulling out of that parking space at the bar.
Yep.
But when they
sorry,
were actually looking at the driver's side, not the passenger side. So while the magician is doing his tricks and pulling the bunny out of his hat, Proctor and some other creepy ass dude were milling around by the passenger side taillight. But there was no way of getting around that security camera footage. So what they did was they flipped the image to try to obfuscate and confuse everyone.
So she hit that other car when she was pulling out to go find John. That's when she hit it.
Oh, that's when she hit it. Okay.
And actually they had the footage from his parking garage. And so they played that in during the trial. You can see her back into it, and you can see the car move.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of speculation as to what conversations were had because stories are differing from woman to woman. So she met up with Jen and then, what was her name? See, I'm forgetting. 2 other people, and she pointed it out to them.
Yes, she said, Carrie. Yeah, someone. Yeah,
Carrie. It was Carrie. Carrie.
She
said, "Oh, I think I hit my car."
Yeah.
And so, that's when that happened. So it was all kind of I mean, and that's when I think to myself, like, when did this plan really, like, it just seems like everything fell into place for them if it truly is a cover up, because they almost like needed her to say, oh, I think I hit something, you know, and then it was like their wheels were turning. They're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
what we're going to do. This is what we're going to say.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It is crazy. And I mean, I guess that goes to the question of their level of motivation. How motivated were they? Whose ass was on the line that caused a cover up? These questions are critical, and nobody is at task to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt in this trial. But I hope someday somebody is at task to do that, because that means that they found the correct or the more appropriate suspect, in my opinion,
Yep.
in this case. So I'm going to play for you now is some footage of Colin Reed. So Colin Reed is the 19-year-old son of Chris Albert. He's the one that apparently the judge had something doing and getting him off, killing that person while driving under the influence. He's the brother of the Boston officer who owned the property that had the lawn upon which fallen officer John O'Keefe's body was found. So this is the son, and let me give you a little taste of Colin, then we'll get back to proctoring.
No matter the weather, no matter the pain, the kick always starts the game. The team must run it back as far as they can while the opposing team tries to defend. Pass or run, you don't want to finish last 4 15-minute quarters to decide the winner. Practice is the key to a successful team. Playoffs is where they want to be. The loser goes home empty-handed, and the winner moves on with the Super Bowl in view. The few will take home the glory, and that's the end of the story.
Okay, so he's big into hockey, big into football. I think the point there, and this is from Turtle Boy's channel, is that he has, it seems to be ingrained in him this kind of like, definitely like machismo, like sort of aggressive winner takes all, like, we'll go blow to blow, mano y mano kind of like thinking about him. But there's just like another minute left, but this gets even more interesting.
You're a bitch, bro. Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, you pussy.
Yeah. Clean cold, boy. You be knocked out. KO. Bang, bang.
You're a bitch, bro. You fucking pussy. You be knocked up. KO, bitch. Bang, bang, is what he says there. Now, I wonder if they're going to show the knuckles. I'm going to keep playing.
My name is Colin Albert. Colin Albert. I am a freshman at Bridgewater State. I am studying finance here, and I am also playing football. I like to take online classes because I like to be in my PJs, as you can see, and I like to always have comfy clothes on and not dress up really. I'm from Canton, Massachusetts, which is about like 20 minutes outside of Boston, about 30 minutes away from Bridgewater. And I'm just happy to be at this school, happy to play football, and happy to see where the road's going to take me one day.
Yo, your advantage, boys. I will beat all your asses. I promise you, I will fuck you all up. Pull up, bitch.
Bang, bang. So that's Colin. Bang, bang is the video here. Let me unmute you there. So that was just a little side road down to Colin. Now, Jay May says there must have been an altercation in the basement. Officer O'Keefe could have been pushed, punched, fell on the base bar. It could have been an accident, but it became murder when they put him out. Yeah, and at that point, if there was an altercation, I mean, it makes sense that a protective dog, especially that breed, a German Shepherd, very loyal to their owners. We know that they had, they were very concerned about watching Chloe closely so she didn't have any more altercations that could have, had her put down if she bit somebody else. That is the kind of dog that it loves their owners, and all they know is to protect their owners. That's what they do. And it makes sense to me that a dog would have jumped right in on that. I mean, I know for damn sure any of my pit bulls that I had, if somebody, even when like friends would mess around me or boyfriend, like kind of just messed around with you, like playing like punch, something like that. I had 2 dogs that were like, they were the sweetest freaking dogs you could ever meet. But as soon as that happened, they were like on point. They were like, you had to call them off and like separate them from the situation because they were like, oh no, not my girl. They were like ready to go to battle. And I have a feeling that's what may have happened with Chloe.
Poor Chloe. I feel so bad for Chloe. And I have, speaking of protection, so when I was first getting into this case, and I was my first thought was, and this was before I knew Colin was a player, I was like, well, if people are going to go to these lengths to cover something up, then they're doing it for their kid or their kids.
Yeah.
And I really, and again, just my opinion, all speculation, blah, blah, blah. But I truly do think that this was a cover up to protect Colin. You know, I do think that he had a massive role to play in this, in my opinion, allegedly. But when people go to these lengths to cover something up, it's like, I know that they're trying to cover their own ass, but it's like, I don't know, just to me, it feels like this is something that they're trying to protect, you know, their kids from.
Yeah. So speculation would be something like Officer John O'Keefe went into the house, you know, Colin was there, they were drinking, you know, he's only 18 or 19, you know, he's, you know, obviously thinks he's a tough guy, KO, bang, bang, pussy, bitch, fuck, blah, blah, whatever. But, you know, he obviously can't hold his liquor. Maybe, you know, Officer John O'Keefe certainly was susceptible to getting drunk. And we all know that in that, you know, inhibited state of making good choices and having solid thought processes, you might do things you otherwise wouldn't. Maybe a conflict incurs. You know, Colin, you know, is like, you know, Colin's obviously hot to get a punch in somewhere. He's got that like testosterone flowing. This is just a narrative that I'm making up. You know, some conflict occurs between them. Chloe's like, oh, that's my boy. You know, in her eyes, Officer John O'Keefe just did something to harm her pack, as Kez is saying. You know, a dog is going to attack in that case. And that's what happened. And the cover up could be a result of something just like that. Is that what I think that's definitely a scenario given the evidence that's been laid out in that trial.
And I'm not saying it was just him and John. Like, I could definitely see it being a group altercation. I know that Jay May said in the comments, she talked about the basement. They had fitness equipment in the basement. He could have fallen back, hit his head, because that's the other part. I don't know if we discussed, he had a massive, was it a gash or injury to the back of his head?
Yeah, that's right.
The back of his head.
The back of his head.
So maybe they were all
made for accounting for that, because that is really important. Yeah.
They were all getting into it in the basement. Maybe there was one punch and that was all it took. And, you know, again, they were all hammered. They were drunk and he fell back. I don't think that this was premeditated. I don't think that this was
I don't either. Because it seems like Officer John O'Keefe, it doesn't, you know, you can't trace him back to any enemies or foes or any kind of real trouble. He just seemed like a nice, good guy. I mean, guys, for those of you that don't know his backstory, his sister's husband, his sister, is this right? His sister and the husband had kids together, and he died an unexpected, untimely, tragic death. And then a very short time later, the sister passed away. So he took in the two children and was raising them as his own. I mean, I haven't heard anybody attest to him anything foul about this man falling off.
Yeah, he seems like he was really a good guy. It seemed like everybody loved him. He did take in his niece and nephew. His sister passed, and then months later, I want to say within months later, the husband passed away. So he took in the kids. And I think about the kids a lot too, because that's a whole other side of this story. But if people aren't familiar with this case, John O'Keefe's family actually do not think, they think that Karen is the one that hit him. And they fully support the prosecuting her. So, but then there's a connection with the kids, because Jen McCabe's her kids are best friends with John O'Keefe's nieces or nephews. So there's all these connections.
Right.
And I just wonder if they got to him, the O'Keefes, if the McKays were able to get the O'Keefes to convince them that Karen Reed was the one that did it. So there's a lot of sad connections, and unfortunately all these kids are being brought into it. They're not kids now, but they were then, you know.
Yeah, that's right. My gosh. And I mean, how sad for those children. John O'Keefe's niece and nephew that he took in after losing both their parents, and they had this loving uncle who had such a big heart to bring them in. And Karen Reed, by the way, was also a really big part of their lives. In fact, there's a lot of stories about John and Karen, having conflict because John was a little jealous that Karen got to come in and kind of be like the fun parent figure, whereas he was a disciplinarian. And you know how children react to that. It feels a little like not good for you as a disciplinarian. You'd rather be the fun one that they're always excited to see, a big smile on their face every time you walk in the room, not like putting stuff behind their back and shaking in their boots, So that, I'm sure, was a tough dynamic for them to get used to as a couple. Now they're kind of parenting together. Of course, that would be hard. None of this seems like motive for murder. My gosh.
No, absolutely not. She spoiled them. She loved them, and they loved her from all accounts. So, and then, the fact that there's a lot of people that were very disappointed with the fact that they had the kids had to testify, and you don't see that in the trial. They did not show those testimonies, but a lot of people said there was really no need for them to come and testify. They really did not have anything bad to say about Karen.
Well, and when they had their statements, they had the niece, and I made the decision with these minors. I'm just not even, their faces don't need to be anywhere. They deserve privacy. They've been through so much. You will not be seeing them on this channel, but we can talk about, the statements that are a matter of public record. And, the niece just said that, in the weeks leading up to this tragic event that, Karen Reed and John O'Keefe were fighting a bit, that, she was sitting on the staircase and, they didn't realize she was so close by because they were trying to love those kids, and they were trying their best, having conflict among themselves to not argue in front of them, to stretch them out. But she said, oh, I overheard them. And, my Uncle John said, that the relationship has run its course, but Karen wouldn't leave, didn't want to end the relationship. And I mean, we've all been there, right? That's a really hard emotional place to be, whichever side you're on,
Yeah. Those poor kids. I do feel for them. I mean, I hope that they're okay. I really do. I mean, they're still going through this. This is still going on.
Oh my gosh. I know. And they're, they lost their uncle. And then it's like the mother and father figure that came in to replace their mother and father, who they both tragically lost in such a short span of time, like unforeseen by anyone. They lose the uncle father figure. He's murdered. And then they're watching the mother's figure who stepped in being put through this. Oh my gosh. I can't even, we need to pray for those children. My God. I mean,
yes.
Oh gosh. Hi, anaphylaxis. Oh, girl, it's okay. But buckle up, girl, because even with all of your experience, anaphylaxis, more than anybody affiliated with this channel, my friend, you need to be along on this ride. Anaphylaxis is retired law enforcement, and we need your opinion on so many of the things here. Oh my God, you're going to love it. I'm so excited.
Yes, we do.
So anaphylaxis, let's listen to a little more of the testimony from the head detective of the case solving the suspicious death, which was then called a murder of a fellow fallen officer, a Boston Police Department officer. Karen Reed is on trial for first-degree murder for murdering him with her vehicle, although all kinds of evidence stands against that. There's alternate theories out there. This was the lead investigator on the case. He's testifying right now. So anaphylaxis, I hope you can stay with us and listen, because this guy is just getting warmed up, and this ain't funny. I don't know if I can find the right word. You just got to.
It's so not funny. We're laughing.
Yeah, you got to hear it. I mean, hear it from the pig himself. Let's go. And I don't mean pig as a pejorative towards law enforcement. I mean, he is a pig of a human being, the way he talks about women, and Karen Reed specifically.
Texts at about 11 o'clock. You see a text that starts, nah, cat.
I do, sir, yes.
You responded, quote, nah, N-A-H, nah, cat, K-A-T-T. It's the total opposite. They have to recuse themselves. Same with Canton. Correct?
That text ends as they have to recuse themselves.
You then text back. I'm sorry. Can I have a moment?
Yes.
Flip the next page.
I see where you're at, sir.
How did you end that text?
Same with Canton.
Meaning Canton has to recuse itself also, correct?
That was my understanding.
So by 11 p.m. on January 29th, 2022, there was no question in your mind, Trooper Proctor, that the Canton Police Department was recused from this investigation in all particulars, correct?
That they had taken a step back from participating, yes.
Right. Well, there's one way to put it. They've taken a step back from participating. Another way to put it is they recused themselves completely, correct?
Correct.
They were not going to be, at least in your mind, they were not to be involved in any way, just like Boston PD was not to be involved in any way. Is that right?
Objection.
Is that what you were thinking?
It was my understanding they were not going to be involved.
Now, if we could turn to page 2537.
Yeah, that's right. There is a pending civil suit. The fallen officer John O'Keefe's family has a wrongful death civil suit against Karen Reed. So that may have been a little off information, Kaz, but I appreciate. I mean, it's really hard to get everything bang bang spot on, KO, Colin, with this case. But I do know that there is a very active civil trial as of yesterday when I was researching that. So, but we'll look into that.
5051 writes, but I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops, correct?
Yes.
And Bird writes, something stinks, correct?
Correct.
And then Trooper Proctor.
Now, okay, listen carefully to this. I'm not going to pause for a little bit because this is a conversation that Michael Proctor, Trooper Head Detective Michael Proctor, is having with, I guess it's 8 of his high school buddies. And even they are raising questions as to what happened that night. The way that they're commenting, it's as though they're all just assuming, oh, it must have been an accident. It must have been a conflict between 2 tough guys. And oh shit, man, that's like, because that is just a natural conclusion. At any point when you step in on the evidence and the facts as we know them to be in this case, that just tends to be the natural conclusion, according to everybody, no matter which side you're on, when the truth is actually told. Oopsie.
Yes.
621, you called her back and you spoke for 3 minutes and 58 seconds.
Shoot.
Option to watch my child.
Okay, we didn't get there yet. Hold on. I screwed this up. But we'll find it.
February 1st, that you did not know any members of the Albert on, correct?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks, debriefing at Canton PD,
did we wait?
discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
and then
you had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to have
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor.
Kylee, did we already hear this part? You're going to have to help me find where we were in our play.
Let me play the last 5 seconds.
Okay. Let's see. Let me just go back just a little bit. And
I just remember.
So the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not.
That's good.
All the facts and the evidence.
Yeah, I think we have to just go back like another minute even, maybe.
You see the driveway and she didn't see him. And you wrote in response.
Okay, so this is where Proctor is explaining to his high school buddies, which is, by the way, obviously so inappropriate and unprofessionally, no business doing that. This is an active investigation. As far as I know, the identities of, I don't even know if the identity of the victim was made a matter to the public yet, but it's just so inappropriate, even whether or not that happened. But he's trying to tell his buddies, this is how it all went down. And they're like, no, man, they're like not getting it because it doesn't make sense. And that's what I was just referring to.
Monday, under examination by Mr. Lally, you've seen a shoe missing.
Correct.
Pedestrian strikes, correct?
Yes.
Those are high speed, extremely high speed incidents, correct?
Yes.
60 plus miles an hour, right?
I can't recall all the pedestrian strikes I've been to as far as the miles per hour the vehicle is traveling.
Trooper Proctor, let me ask you the question again. Have you ever, yes or no, have you ever in your experience seen a vehicle pedestrian incident in which the pedestrian has no bruises?
Objection.
Have you seen that?
I can't recall.
Next question.
Of course.
Right.
After you wrote, she hit him with her car, 5051 writes, oh, Jesus.
Oh, wait, we
And
did
Bird
already
writes,
do this.
okay.
But did we already listen to this a while ago?
I don't think so, but I'm
Okay,
not sure.
Maybe he just is probably reiterating the point because it is a really good one. I mean, he corners into saying that there were no bruises on Officer John O'Keefe. And have you ever seen a, vehicle versus man incident where the man walked away without bruises? And I do believe it's a point he makes time and time again because it's a critical one. So
That's fucked up, correct?
Correct.
And then you wrote what?
Intentional or not?
Intentional or not? Is that right?
Yes.
Your words.
Correct.
0095 then chimes in, gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Question mark. Correct?
Correct.
And you wrote what?
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove. Correct?
Correct.
Trooper Proctor, you knew that there were going to be things in this case, even 16 hours into this, that you just admitted.
Yes, well, Calissa says that this was about 20 minutes ago, but he does reiterate that. So that's what I was thinking was the first pass around. So I'll try to move up to where we were before, and thank you. But these are all good points to hear again.
Who, didn't you?
They're critical.
I did.
Again,
oh God, this is horrible.
Then you sent a picture.
Oh yeah.
And the content's fine. You have.
Yeah, this is
two people named McCabe
I don't know if that would, but I mean,
and one named Albert, who happened to be the homeowner.
Oh boy.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we?
Oh wait, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna follow the evidence wherever it takes us.
Okay.
You didn't, did you?
I did not write that.
You didn't write, yeah, we're gonna make sure that we investigate this thing fully and thoroughly before making any decisions. You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
You wrote, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And the reason you wrote that is because you knew, as the text above it says, this has to be cut and dry because it involves cops, right?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that. Is that the reason you wrote it?
No, Your Honor.
And then you indicated we're going to put serious charges on the girl. Who did you mean by the girl, by the way?
The defendant.
Karen Reed?
Yes, sir.
So the way that you were going to make it cut and dry, pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Is that right?
Absolutely not. Follow the facts and the evidence from that day on the 29th. And everything led to Miss Reed hitting Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
But that wasn't the question that you were answering, was it? We're going to follow the evidence and make sure we do this thoroughly. The question you were answering was, I assume you guys, you, Trooper Proctor, and your team are going to, quote, make it cut and dry.
She is enjoying this so much. She's like, dude, we nailed you, man. Look at her. Because, I mean, it's in his own words, and he has to sit up there on the stand under oath and read them back.
Oof.
I love it. Okay, we're getting some juice here.
Since it involved cops, meaning Brian Albert, correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading.
Homeboy, come here. Listen to mama, homeboy. Come here. Put down your fucking shovel and stop digging because you got a massive hole there that you have dug yourself. I can't believe how stupid this man is. It's like horrifying that these are the people who are entrusted to protect and serve us. No offense to those who are doing an amazing, honorable job, because we can't thank you enough, but this is downright scary.
I'm scared for Mass.
Yeah, man.
Massachusetts needs to get it together. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
scared
they
for
need
those
to become a
people.
state. I never understood. Well, I kind of understand the Commonwealth thing, but but yeah, I mean, and you know what? They've always, I have a couple friends in Boston, so I'm in like upstate central New York. So to get from here from Boston, you cut straight through the center line of Massachusetts. It's like you're like an hour in New York, then you drive straight through all Massachusetts. I have some other things. I used to like host yoga retreats and trainings and stuff in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. Anyway, I spent some time there, and the only thing I ever knew about, particularly the Massachusetts, I guess, state troopers, because they're Commonwealth, or they say police, I don't know. They have a remarkable reputation. No more.
No, doesn't sound like it.
Oh, wait. I love what he says here. Hold it. Let me just go back. This is so great. I love this guy. All right.
Correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we?
Let's keep
50,
reading,
51,
shall we? I love it.
A little further down says, gotta be. I could only imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears and he writes, she hot at least, correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts, he didn't do.
Let's hear that again. This is what he says about Karen Reed to his group of high school buddies.
Correct?
Incorrect. Doesn't matter to me if the homeowner's a cop, if the victim's a police officer. Myself and everyone in my office investigated this case that Saturday, had an overwhelming amount of evidence that Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe. So it didn't matter to us what their occupation was.
We'll see. Let's keep reading, shall we? 5051, a little further down, says, gotta be. I could only imagine what internal affairs at BPD are trying to get out there. Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears and he writes, she hot at least, correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts.
Yes, that's right. She's a whack job cunt. Spoken from the words or the fingertips of the lead detective on this case to solve the mysterious death that was determined to be a murder of a fellow fallen officer, a Boston Police Department officer, Officer John O'Keefe. Do you have something to say, Kylee? I just
Classy. I said classy. Once again, there's that respect, it's just, it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, it's just, and oh, guys, don't worry. We're just getting started. Oh, McJay, I just dropped the link for you. I would love for you to come up.
Yay, come up.
Yeah, don't take this the wrong way, but as you were like giving information, I was like, wow, like, if it's going to be said on the channel, I just want to know if it's accurate or not, and if I should like highlight it or whatever. But everything I'm checking here, to the best of my quick research ability while we're doing this, has been like spot on. I'm super impressed. I would be honored for you to come up. So please, if you're free, I would love for you to come up. I invite you to come up. I'm sure we have plenty of questions you could answer.
Yes.
Didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation.
Yes.
Into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
But sir, you didn't have all accounts, did you?
What I meant by that was,
did you or did you not have all accounts in your investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
Those taillight pieces, he's holding on to them like they're freaking communion bread.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor, were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who have.
And then he cites the evidence that is largely believed he planted. So yay, J May's backstage. So I'm going to invite J May up. Welcome, J May. Thanks for coming up.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I don't want to take over. And I just want to say one little
Girl,
thing.
you take over. I am so impressed with how much you know about this really convoluted case. It's hard to keep all this straight. I'm like, bring it.
I lived and breathed this case, and I watched every minute more than once. And I'm not on anybody's team but justice. I don't follow, and I'm not, manically allied with Turtle Boy or anybody else. I just watched the trial, was outraged, and decided, oh, I retired early. I guess this is my new job. So
there you go.
But I do want to say that I did say that two of my sons are doctors, and I just want to be clear. I'm not bragging because I didn't accomplish it and I didn't go to med school, but I did.
Girl, good for you.
But I did. I was a single mom too, so it was really tough.
I would be
single moms.
But I did.
And it also speaks to what you have to say about, what they told you. They are experts in that certain area. So first of all, thank you for raising such amazing human beings, and you should be so freaking proud of that.
Well, I'm very proud. I'm proud for them. I didn't teach them everything.
Well, whether you want it or not, I'm going to give you a lot of credit for that because I know how hard it is to be a single mom. And, the way they turned out has something very much to do with your parenting.
I had 3 boys. I have 3 boys. And my oldest one just had twins. They're preemies, but they're twins. So I've been really, really busy because I'm the only one allowed over there. And so my days are totally off YouTube, but I've been a subscriber for a long time of yours.
Oh yeah, I recognize you for sure.
And I just had a minute and I looked at YouTube and I went, oh my God, Kelly's on. I'm gonna go.
I'm so glad you did. Now, what are the grandbabies' names, if you don't mind sharing?
It's Margot and Harrison.
Oh, what a blessing.
Oh, I love that. I love Margot. That is so cute.
Very classy, classic names. I like those names very much.
Well, but as far as my sons, I made them look at every bit of evidence medically and made them listen to Dr. Russell, the dog expert.
Yeah. So tell everybody the conclusion. So J May has 2 sons who are physicians, and she made them join in her obsession and look at all the evidence of this case, especially as it pertains to maybe what the medical examiner looked at. And what's the conclusion they came to, J May?
They came to that his arm is definitely an animal attack, probably a large dog, could be a wolf. He ruled out. They said the pig DNA is probably the dog treat the dog probably ate at one point, but the dog DNA, the DNA samples weren't collected correctly, so they couldn't ascertain dog DNA. And my sons are they're all geeks. I mean, really geeks. And and they said that everything regarding DNA depends on proper collection. And because this case, I told them that Proctor deliberately did not collect evidence that would point away from Karen Reed and because that would implicate his friends, the Alberts. And anyway, they said the arm injuries they've never seen car wreck injuries like that, even on people that were inside a car where windshields broke. They never looked like that. That is definitely an
this
animal
is an
attack.
autopsy photo, just so you know. If you
Yeah.
know, it's not a gruesome one, or I would have given you warning. I mean, as far as that goes, this is what they're looking at when they're making those comments.
And the lower arm, those 3 big marks on the lower arm are likely teeth bites, because when a dog sinks their teeth in, they pull back and they drag the flesh. But the upper ones from his elbow and above look like scratches to them. And they said that his other injuries, none of them were consistent with being struck by a car. Even if only his arm was struck, he would have lots of bruises. His arm would have been broken. And it's not. And the only bruise he has below his neck is what my sons say is a defense wound on the outside of his wrist.
Outside of his wrist.
Wow.
So
I have
when
two
you look at
questions.
those two, like, it looks like punctured and drag wounds. I was talking about this with my son yesterday because we were just looking at it. He's really interested in investigation and stuff. And we were talking about the dog bites and those, like how tall this guy is. So how long would his arm be? And I mean, just from an anecdotal perspective, it almost looks like could very well be the size of how 2 incisors of a German Shepherd would be situated.
Yeah, and that's 2 bites. And you can see very faintly the 2 dots beneath those 3 stripes right below the elbow. Those are the lower teeth.
Right.
Yep.
So the dog chomped and then dragged and then let go and chomped again to get the 3rd and 4th mark on the right side.
You know, and I remember the state making, or the prosecution making some deal about, with the absence of the lower teeth bite marks. I'm like, it's not a freaking hippopotamus, it's a dog.
Well, they were saying it was the glass. It was the glass that shattered
all
on
the power in a dog's bite is in its upper teeth. The lower teeth just hold the flesh so the upper teeth can really dig.
Right.
I have a 85-pound Ridgeback, and after she completed the agility course correctly, she came up behind me and jumped on me and left scratch marks on me exactly like his upper arm in almost the exact place. And I had to go to the doctor.
I was telling this story earlier. Chick and I both have personal stories about dog bites that we unfortunately got to know intimately well. And I mean, we both agreed that this is precisely what they looked like. And Anaphylaxis, who is retired law enforcement, says that doesn't look like any traffic collision injury I've ever seen. Thank you so much, Anaphylaxis.
Well, and she would know. She's probably seen a ton of them.
Right.
And my sons also said that anyone who was struck by a car at all, as standing outside of it, would be covered in bruises and fractures.
Covered.
Especially at 26 miles an hour. I went and did this in the parking lot after the store closed and put my car in reverse.
It's impossible.
And got it to 26 miles an hour in reverse. Scared the pants off me.
You actually got it.
Yes.
Well, did you watch Turtle Boy's video when he actually went there? And it is very illuminating. I mean, he actually went to the exact spot. He measured it out, and he couldn't even get it up to 25. He couldn't. He literally could not.
You're half a block away by then.
Yep.
It takes hundreds of feet to get to 26 miles an hour.
I heard you say something. I heard you say something that I have not heard. What about the pig's blood?
Well, the only DNA that was detected was on his clothing and on the sweater, which was never officially logged into evidence and doesn't have an evidence written log. And that sweater was carried around picked up at the hospital in the ER by Proctor and put in his car and driven around in his car for about a week and a half before it was turned into the police department. So God only knows. Maybe he has a pet pig. He is a pig. I know that.
I just pulled up a picture of it. I don't know if I have to put it on, but those, like the pig snouts and pig's ears, are very popular treats of dogs have the need to chew.
I mean, that to me makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense to
And they
me.
literally are from parts of pigs.
Wow.
Just to make sure I'm not losing my goddamn mind here.
Yeah, they're called pig ears because they're really pig ears.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just that little piece is another thing that just went right over my head. You know, just like the altercation comment earlier, that the pig's DNA, I have never heard that. And that's just another tick on my list. You know, like, okay, there's
Well, don't
actually
feel bad.
there's a couple videos that I've watched where there's some guy, he's got a massive channel and he's a dog trainer. And he actually went on there's a couple of
Yeah, he
creators
went on
that have,
Melanie Little.
yes, Melanie. Yep, there you go. Yep. I'm so happy you came up because like I have all these like little pieces and you're just like filling in the blanks for me.
Oh,
so
No,
yeah.
I'm obsessed.
I'm sorry?
obsessed.
Is that who you're talking about, Attorney Melanie Little?
Right.
Yes. She had an expert. She had an expert on her show to talk about it. And well, I think, would you know more? What do I call you? J May? I don't know.
Yeah, J May is fine. J May.
Okay, J May. Yeah. So, do you remember more about that little segment? Because he also agreed that they were bites, and he did some examples, didn't he? He showed it on those synthetic arms that they had.
Right. They, besides being dog trainers and evaluators of dangerous dogs, that's their business. They also manufacture the prosthesis pieces that you put over the arm and the leg and the body to keep you safe while you're letting a dog attack. And they train police dogs, which is critical.
Oh,
This
so
expert was the
qualified.
best I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was good. He was
He
really
was
good.
amazing.
And wait, was Chloe? She was a police dog at one point, wasn't she?
I
Was
think
she retired?
She failed out.
training,
She
right.
couldn't pass the course because she had violent tendencies.
She
And
went
there
through
are
training,
3
but
other
she wasn't certified.
incidences
Yeah.
of her attacking other people.
Yeah.
So this is a
We
dangerous
talked about all
dog who's
that, and
high
the police
strung.
was part of that. Yeah. I mean, it just makes so. I don't know how anybody with a straight face who knows all of the facts is the facts for what they are that can say, yeah, there's no way Chloe was involved, or yeah, not likely. I mean, you're just lying at that point. It's just
Well, unless Brian Higgins or Colin Albert are vampires, a dog did this.
Right.
That's great. Poor Chloe. Where do you think that dog is, if that dog is still on Earth?
The dog is rehomed and is living in Vermont with a very appropriate family, apparently.
And that's according to the Alberts, who have lied consistently, or maybe I guess we can say they don't recall anything.
Damn, girl, you are so good.
And so I actually suspect, I'm sad to say this because I'm a dog lover. I could turn my camera on and show you my beautiful dog sleeping at the end of this couch. And I think Brian Albert is a heartless. Look at the people he raised. Look at who his brothers, how his kids, those nephews act.
That's been my
These are not.
Put her down so they couldn't get the bite impressions from her.
Well, the best way to get rid of evidence is to off the dog.
Yep.
So in my heart, I don't know that. It's just my opinion. And in my heart, after seeing the lack of character in these people, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yep. Well, as I say, karma's a bitch, and this one you can't rehome her, so they're in trouble for sure.
Yeah.
Can't rehome karma.
Let me play a little more of this. I'm so grateful you came up, Jamie. It's awesome. Let me play a little more. Let's get through a little more of this Proctor testimony before we have to wrap. Oh boy. Oh wait, hold it. I'm pulling up my own stream here. Wait a minute, sweetie. I have too many windows. Just give me 1 minute here. I gotta get back.
You're on 3 of my screens right now. I have you on the TV, my laptop, and my phone.
I do too.
So honored. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Oh God, it gets a lot to keep, especially with this case. My gosh, I feel like, the Watts case is one of those really complicated cases, but I mean, I made it all but my life's mission to become intimately familiar with every fact versus the fiction of that case. This one is like, you know, coming into a case that is so complicated where I don't know it backwards and forwards is a little intimidating, honestly. It's a lot. So thank you, both of you, because you're contributing so much to the conversation.
You're welcome.
I've been on Watts Island again recently. I need a Karen Reed break right now.
Girl, I'm with you, so we can do that together because I need a little watch break too. I need them every now and then. I just can't anymore for a little
I
while.
went back to Watts Island. That's how I found you, but now I can't get off again.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad.
Well, that's how I found her too. But
on my little raft, and we'll just take a little rest.
Well, the Watts case it was really difficult for me because kids were involved, and I'm an empath. So, and now that I'm older and retired, I cry at the drop of a hat. So I have to be really cautious when I watch anything about the Watts, because all of a sudden I'll be like, "Why did you do that?" You know, and it's just silly. It's just silly.
I'm a single mom of a 3-year-old daughter right now, so
bless your heart.
this really hits home for me now.
Oh,
I mean, I've always
moms. Look at us,
single mamas.
That's awesome.
Well, I put their dad through med school too.
Oh, damn, girl.
After the kids were born.
Get it?
Wow, that's amazing.
And I made him a doctor, and he made me a cliche.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's how that works.
Yeah, but he didn't move up, believe me.
We'll save that for another time, but I do want to hear the deets on that. Welcome, Otter. Okay, I'm gonna play a little more of this, and as Anaphylactic has advised, buckle up, Buttercup.
Correct?
Correct.
Meaning, this person, 5051, was opining, at least in your mind, you interpreted that as being Boston police are going to have a lot to answer for, given the fact that another Boston police officer was found dead on that officer's lawn. Correct?
Objection.
What were you thinking?
Can't speak to the mindset to that comment. I wasn't sure how to interpret that one.
All right, next question, Mr. Jackson.
Then 5051 changes gears and he writes, she hot at least, correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation.
Yes.
Into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
But sir, you didn't have all accounts.
I bet his wife and his kids are really proud right now.
Did you?
What I meant by that was,
did you or did you not have all accounts in your investigation?
the accounts we had was Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle, discovered taillight pieces at the scene. Those are the accounts we had.
The accounts
And then
you
some.
had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
He's like, yo, we had my narrative. I manufactured it. I know this inside and out. I can get an A on this question. We had Karen Reed and John O'Keefe and taillight bits.
All right, go ahead.
The accounts you had, Trooper Proctor, were from two people named McCabe and one named Albert, who happened to be the homeowner and a Boston cop. Those are the accounts from percipient witnesses that you had, correct?
There was another additional witness that we had investigators had interviewed, Miss Roberts as well.
And from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours into the investigation, correct?
Yes.
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job cunt, right?
Yes.
Let that sink in. He's good. He's good.
What else did you say in response to she's hot at least? Or she hot at least, question mark.
So following that text, I responded, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
Yeah, she's a babe. Who's the she?
Miss Reed.
Weird Fall River accent, though. You talking about her, the way she talks?
The accent.
And no ass. Now you're talking about her body or physique, correct?
Yes.
You think that's appropriate?
Absolutely not.
Then Bird chimes in with a little comedy. Not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, she didn't have an ass. Nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then 5051 says, oh, she's skating, right?
Correct.
And what did you write after that?
My response was 0 chance she skated.
And then what did you write?
She's fucked.
0 chance she skates. She's fucked, right?
Correct.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. The content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
Thanks, Mom.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? Put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
What did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks, and a debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office, we went through.
And by the way, he hadn't even been at the scene of the crime to the point he made this determination, just FYI.
Through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
What you meant by that comment, Trooper Proctor, was you were going to make sure, because 5051 had said she's going to skate. She's skating. When you said 0 chance she skates, she's fucked. What you meant was, I am going to make sure Ms. Reed doesn't skate. She's fucked. That's what you meant.
Objection.
Sustained.
And then Bird decides to chime in. Good. No ass bitch. Right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good, no ass bitch?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you? Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny?
It was unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my response at the time, apparently.
Then you sent a picture just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct?
I don't. Not sure if that came from me, sir.
Let's skip to 2543.
Oh, hot damn.
Are you there, Trooper Proctor?
Yes.
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. A person by the name of Doc writes, is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Who's Chief?
A friend of mine.
And then you write what?
Oh, boy.
She's got a leaky balloon knot.
Trooper Proctor,
She's got a leaky balloon knot. Now, first of all, that went so far over my head. I mean, I get it. Okay, now that I understand. So, well, let's let Mr. Jackson have Mr. Proctor tell us more about what that refers to in case you were like me and like, duh.
Explain to the jurors what a balloon knot is.
Your essentially, I guess, your rectum area.
Your anus?
Yes.
That's what you were referring to about Miss Reed?
Yes.
And you were making fun of her because you believed at that time that it leaked? That's how you were treating Miss Reed? Yes or no?
Yes.
And then you followed that up just to make sure you cleared up any mistake about what you meant with leaks poo, correct?
Objection.
All right, so I'm going to strike that. You could get this in, but do it the right way, Mr. Jackson.
So, Miss Reed suffers from Crohn's disease, and after she and Officer John O'Keefe, dated in their 20s for a while and then went their separate ways, they both endured some significant, really challenging life events. With, Officer John Reed, it was his brother-in-law, then sister dying and leaving the nephews orphans and taking them in, and some other things. And with Karen Reed, she had to have she had to have, I don't know, like a dozen operations in like a year and a half or something, like really serious reconstructive gastrointestinal procedures that were very serious, and some would consider even life-threatening with, surgeries of that degree. So many of them with such, serious health risks at hand. So what he says about her is she has a leaky balloon knot. Go ahead, Cass, comment.
I had to text my sons and ask them what a balloon knot was.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
And then I asked them what her she has MS and she had a colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember her having had 7 surgeries in less than 3 years, and my sons said that is a critical case.
I think that he says right now, I think coming up, I think he says either 10 or 12 in 18 months. I'm pretty sure he's going to talk about it in a minute here.
Okay, good. Well, I just remember, my son said that is an extremely serious case of, I can't remember the word because I didn't go to med school, gosh darn it.
Yeah.
But her affliction is exceedingly serious, and it often requires a number of surgeries spaced apart it takes that many to get the whole job done. You can't just go in and fix it with one surgery. And so it is an arduous 2 years of your life,
Right.
It's horrific.
I didn't know there was actually context to the comment that he made. I mean, I thought he was just throwing stuff out there to be an a-hole, but how would he even know about that?
Well, I'm guessing Jen McCabe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the mousy one. What was the mousy one's name?
How they reunited. They each had this, horrible adversity in their life that they overcame, and then they reconnected through, I think it was Facebook, as that adversity, as like the peak of it was like just really like, just like taking over their lives. And then they found each other and they consoled each other and found love and comfort. And, it's part of their story. So I'm guessing probably Jen McCabe. I think you're probably right on that.
I'm looking at Anna in chat right now, and you said that she was law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, absolute embarrassment, and it's sad to me that this man is out there representing law enforcement as a whole, because obviously this is an isolated instance. I'm sure there's other people like that, but it's just it's just so sad to me on so many levels. Like all the people out there in law enforcement that are good people and are doing the right thing and doing their jobs right. And this just sucks all around. I don't know. It's sad.
Well, every police officer on this case is such a base human being.
Yes. Why? Why did that
they
happen?
are so low rent,
very
and they are so unjustifiably arrogant.
Yeah.
And they're not
But
very
how
bright.
do they fix this? Because it seems like it's such a massive problem in mass. Because when you really go into the rabbit hole with this, it just seems like, well, and then we didn't talk about Sandra Birchmore, but
Well,
that's the
and
other.
Enrique.
And
Enrique,
yes.
there's another, he got killed at the police academy, MSP's academy.
There's a problem. There is a problem.
Well, and I actually wrote to the governor of Massachusetts when I learned about this case, and I said, my ancestors landed in Boston, Mass in 1635, and I'm so glad later generations left that state. You must do something about the corruption, the ignorance, the lack of professionalism. I blew her away with that letter.
Bravo.
Hear, hear.
Well, it just
Hear,
angered
hear.
me. I have a great, I'm really into my ancestry. I traced my roots back to 1004. And I care very much about it. And I've always had this great feeling about Massachusetts because that's where the first one of my family came to America. And now I think it's the most putrid place in the world. And I don't even want to go there and research more about my family because I'm afraid I'll get arrested by one of these corrupt nincompoop cops.
Oh yeah.
But that's kind of how you think about it, right? Like it's the epicenter. Like this is a place where our country was found, one of the places our country was founded. So it does seem like it's just like they are representing the US as a whole. Could someone explain to me the Commonwealth? What is the Commonwealth?
Well, that's what they call that. What we call a state. Like I'm in the state of Oregon. We don't call it the Commonwealth. It's an old English term that's kind of left over from when England ran the colonies. And they just hung on to it for some reason.
So there you go. It all goes full circle.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it's just disgraceful. I was just so appalled because I've always respected police. And to find out that such shoddy investigative practices would be tolerated by his superiors, but his superiors are in on it.
Well, and when I say things like
on it,
I'm scared for Massachusetts, but when I say things like I'm scared for Massachusetts, like I'm not saying that facetiously. Like I'm actually scared for them. These are the people that are
showing of humanity and of law enforcement and leaders of our society. These people who are supposed to be protectors of our society. These are scary people. I don't want them, protecting and serving me of any sort. Hell no.
No, I don't want them near me. I'm terrified of them.
Right.
Yep.
If I ever go to Boston to research my history and blue lights light up behind me, I'm just going to slash my wrist because it's over. I'm not going to survive.
You just
get that wallet out.
Over here to New York State, honey. I'll pick you up. Don't go do that.
Keep them away from your tail lights. Make sure they don't go near the tail lights.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and have you noticed that? I mean, and again, I have so much respect for law enforcement officers.
Same.
It like not these ones, but like vast majority of them who, regardless of where they are on like proficiency and excellence in their job, just the fact that they're doing what they're doing and that they care about other people that much and that they're going to put themselves out there to protect others, I just think is so freaking honorable. And I can't say that enough, but these particular cops, I mean, even on the stand throughout this whole trial, the testimony, they're just fucking stupid, man. They're like dumb.
They're so stupid.
Well, and even outside of the courtroom, they are visiting residents of Canton's homes to harass them. And whenever there was a standout for Karen, a bunch of people were in knee-deep snow at a church parking lot. They issued trespassing tickets to them. They're harassing the citizens. So it's kind of like there isn't any constitution in Canton. The cops get to do whatever they want.
I feel like the Turtle Boy angle of this is actually an important part of this entire story, just for that alone.
Well, he's the one who actually brought it to everybody's attention.
And just what has happened to him. I mean, that's like a whole nother side of this.
Exactly.
He was in jail for how long? 60 days?
60 days. Yeah.
Yeah, for just
Reporting on the
yeah,
tape.
but I can't think of the word, but he had the right to do everything that he had to, he has done. And the harassment that has taken place with him, with other people, like you said, they're showing up to people's houses.
And
There's no
nobody's
protesting.
correcting. Nobody's
No,
reining in these
People
cops.
act. This is how people who are desperate to save whatever shred of whatever it is that is precious to them, that is how they act. And it's like they see that everything is unraveling, that people's perception of them, their integrity, their decency, their honor, their strength, their all these machismo related words. This is all going to hell in a handbasket because what is being put on trial before the entire world here, and they are desperately trying to hold on to any of that. And it is so juvenile, it's so uninvolved, it is so disgraceful, and it is so upsetting that this is a representation for all of the world to see, and for all people who are just trying to feel safe every day in their own life, in their own country, that we have to see all of this and even think about it.
That it's possible anywhere. And that's why it's important to support this case and get the right result. But it's so un-American. It's just un-American what's going on there. And nobody is reining in these cops. Look how long it's taken, over 2 years, to get Proctor before an advisory committee. He got suspended a year and a half after, was it?
Yeah, it was only right after the verdict or the mistrial was rendered. They waited for a verdict to even take any kind of action.
That blows my mind.
Supervising them while the case was being mismanaged. Because I'm just sitting in my house, turning on the case, and when I first saw it, I thought, oh, this girl killed her cop boyfriend with a car. Oh, I got to watch this. And you know what? My liar radar went off like crazy when all the McAlberts were testifying. And I thought, their lies are so transparent. They're obviously covering up for somebody. And what the Proctor says happened did not happen. And it could very well be that there was an altercation in the basement and he fell accidentally. Maybe they didn't intentionally kill him, but they covered it up from there. They covered him up. And that was the first thing I posted about that case, the first video I watched. I believe that John, because I know for a fact that I heard testimony that the young people were upstairs and Brian Albert went downstairs after he went to the bathroom. He went to the basement to be with Chloe because she was all excited.
That's right.
And then when Brian Higgins walked in behind him, he went to the basement. And nobody ever mentioned Colin, so we don't know, but I am sure that Colin, who has, just a little punk ass bitch attitude, wanted to go down there.
Hell yeah.
And so some conflict occurred and something happened. But the best thing about it is that all of the evidence gathering was deliberately done to not collect anything that could point directly at Karen Reed and to only listen to people in the McAlbert camp, because he said everything I knew at the time was that Karen hit him with a car. Because you talked to who? The Brian Albert and his wife who didn't come out of the house?
Right.
Did you talk to Jen McCabe, who actually went in the house during when they were collecting him, when the EMTs were collecting his body? You see her walk up to the house. And that reminds me, there's another really good channel called Dream Feed Media. And this woman is so amazing in her analytics and her attention to detail. And she has parsed things to the point where once you watch her video, you go, aha, what I saw, she just proved what I thought from what I saw from these lies.
Now, I just also want to point out a name you just mentioned. So if you look at this chart of our character structure here, you have Brian Higgins. You'll see on this chart, whoever created this chart, it wasn't me. note, and thank you to whoever did this. I'll try to find where it was and give them credit in the description. Brian Higgins, you'll see in this chart, it notes that there were romantic text messages between Karen Reed and Brian Higgins. And
Yes,
Brian
there were.
Higgins was the person who went into the house around the same time that Officer John McKeith did that night and was, downstairs.
That was the catalyst.
Yeah.
Well, I do believe that because in
That was the catalyst.
in the video in the camera from the bar they were all at, the last bar they were at together,
Waterfall. Yeah.
the waterfall. That video shows Brian Higgins and Brian Albert wrestling around and getting feisty. And it's not, men don't act like that in a bar unless they're talking about, yeah, we're going to get him in the basement and just rough him up and tell him your girlfriend kissed me or whatever and flirts with me over text. And Brian Higgins actually texted Karen in the waterfall like, what are you going to do about it?
Didn't he motion to John to like come over here? Like, didn't he do like a motion to him? Like, yeah.
Well,
and he said something to him too. Like,
even Jennifer McCabe was in on trying to lure John and Karen to the Albert's house. And when they were walking out, Jen said to Karen, "You ride with me." And John walked out after Karen and she turned around and said, "No, John and I'll follow." But Karen was trying this. There was obviously a plan to get Karen and John at that house and have some sort of confrontation. And I don't want to believe they intentionally murdered him. It could have been a fight gone awry and he fell and cracked his head open. That's the injury that killed him, my son said, is that
yes.
That
I think it was
fractured his
that.
skull in like 40 pieces.
Oh my God.
And my son said that kind of injury that had that severe a fracture, radiant fracture effect means he dropped from a standing position onto that bar.
Oh, definitely. That is 100% my theory. And I agree with you. I don't think that it was premeditated unaliving, but I definitely think that there was a plan to,
cover it up.
Get in a fight, they wanted the altercation. So yeah, I think that Higgins was the catalyst, and I think that Colin just got involved because of the reasons that we were talking about.
Here I have the footage, and it just so happened.
Oh yes,
to that channel you just mentioned, Microdots, right? That's just what came up.
Yes,
Microdots is amazing. Dream Food
awesome.
Media,
awesome.
And so is Joe Flipperhead. He's amazing too on this case.
Awesome.
You're going to
I haven't heard.
You know what's going to happen, Kelly, is you're going to start watching these channels and you're going to go, oh my God, I got to watch another one. You're going to be up all night, honey.
I know.
Microdots Microdots will get you.
I know. You guys are just like baiting me in with some more of the poison here.
We haven't even watched Jen McCabe yet.
Oh my God, I know. So this is the video footage from that bar and grill, the waterfall, where they're talking about that interaction with this guy, Brian Higgins, who had exchanged romantic texts with Karen Reed. So let's just see what this shows. I don't even remember watching it. I don't know which one it is. He's getting all around me and grab me. Oh yeah, look at that.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
All their testosterone's aflutter.
He just had like a micro expression on his face. It's nothing other than.
Yeah, there it is. He says, "Come on, come on." Yep, come here.
It's almost like Higgins wanted him to be.
Yep.
Look, he's all that bravado.
Yep. He was get over here.
On his face when he grabs him really abruptly.
Oh man, there is definitely.
That's like
Bunch of thugs. Come on.
okay, so he's all up in there. But
This is powerful stuff.
okay, so now he's moving over, and now
See, I find it also interesting that Julie and Chris Albert were caught lying because they told the police they went to the Albert home, but when they first testified in the trial, they said they didn't. They went that he walked home from the pizza parlor and she had a migraine and went home from the bar. But it was later revealed that they were both at the house.
I did not know that they lied at first.
Yeah, they did.
I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much.
I sat here and watched it and I go, and by the time they were on, by the time Julie Albert testified, I was like, I don't believe a word any of these people.
I know. Hey, is this welcome, LA Mama? Is this true? LA Mama says Higgins destroyed the phone and disposed on the military base after there was a preservation order in act.
Yeah, well, because
Didn't he do
they
that?
got
Yeah.
a heads up. They got a heads up that a preservation order would be issued on a certain date, and so the assumption is that Lally told them a preservation order for your phones is coming on this date. So both Brian Higgins and Brian Albert destroyed their phones, and Brian Higgins went to great lengths to go to a military base nearby him, and he just not only took the chip out of the phone, he damaged the chip, and he threw the chip and the phone in two different trash receptacles.
Now, would it be standard practice
NK
for a
vibes.
prosecutor to give material witnesses a heads up like that? Like there's going to be a preservation in order, or was that all part of the
It's highly unethical.
Yeah,
It's highly unethical because Lally is now playing on the side of these people.
That's right. Because as we were saying
Well,
earlier,
he also.
it's not his job to win the conviction. It's his job to pursue and champion and advocate
For justice, yeah.
for those that he serves.
He also provided his text messages, and J-May, you're going to have to help me out a little bit on this, but didn't he go to one of his, because maybe it was like he's an FBI guy, right? Or is
He went to an FBI guy who was a computer expert and had a computer station in Boston, and he had that guy download all his messages, and then Brian Higgins combed through them and deleted a bunch of them. And so the messages that he actually had this guy print up for him and turn into Chip Proctor, were edited. It wasn't a total history.
Yeah, and he was just being it was so nice of him to, get that all together for them, and I think like they asked, and I'm being sarcastic, by the way, I think that they said on the stand, have you ever been given text this way or, phone information this way? And they said no, but that always stood out to me.
It's my understanding in the other cases I've watched that effective law enforcement officers doing a serious investigation, they do everything differently. The first thing they do is they confiscate phones and copy them. Right. They take them right out. They bring a witness in like they did in the Adelson case. They brought in Wendy, took her phone, copied the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then sat there and interviewed her for 3.5 hours or whatever. And then gave her phone back, but they don't, and they filmed it. Now, there isn't one filmed interview at a police station with one witness in this case.
Yeah.
And all of the all of the witness testimony told or not testimony, but all of the stories by witnesses were given to different police officers, and the police officers just took notes. And not having it on film gave all the McAlberts the opportunity to say, I don't recall saying that. I think he got it wrong.
Right.
And what can you do? There's no
Yeah,
video.
they did say that.
It's notes.
Jen was saying he was
They
wrong.
engineered everything to point to Karen and got rid of anything that could implicate the McAlberts.
It sounds like the CBI in Massachusetts are going off the same playbook.
Yeah, I know,
So
right?
I'm just thinking about NK.
Why isn't anybody, I mean, the first inkling I had that the FBI was investigating this case, well, they're not actually investigating this case. They're investigating Canton County. The DA is my stuff. They don't say exactly who they're investigating, but my suspicion is it's DA Morrissey, because he's one dirty little mofo.
So they were investigating his investigation, though, right? They were.
Well,
Weren't they investigating the
his
investigation of the case?
not just his case. They're investigating him for other reasons too.
Yeah. Okay.
And so,
That's right.
but one of the aspects of the FBI investigation, in my view, is this case, which is why the FBI hired ARCA to evaluate to give you the physics and the scientific evidence that John O'Keefe's injuries were not caused by a car, and a car did not hit John O'Keefe. That's what they said.
Accident Reconstruction Association or something. They're an independent agency.
The ARCA is an actual accident reconstruction company.
Right. I'm sorry. They are a company who is an expert and independent.
Yeah, they're independent.
Right.
But the FBI constantly calls on them because they are the FBI's #1 source for accident reconstruction. Because after watching those two guys testify, you know why.
Well, Jamie, listen, you can help me out on this little tangent. So I'm sure you listened to some of the interviews that the anonymous interviews that were given to Turtle Boy from the jurors.
Yes.
And so just for a little context for everybody else, pre-trial, they basically ruled that the ARCA guys could come and testify, but they were not allowed to say that the FBI hired them to investigate.
That's true.
So, yeah. So basically the jury just were told that this independent, company came in to investigate this for whatever reason. And the juror ended up telling Turtle Boy that they were speculating that Turtle Boy was the one that actually hired ARCA. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I just got to say that if I ever do anything wrong and I'm arrested, I hope the jurors are smarter than that jury.
I can't believe that. It blew my mind.
I can't believe after ARCA, that case should have been a slam dunk for the jury. Acquittal. There's no way you can get past science.
Yeah. And
I think there was plans.
Witness.
I'm going all the way conspiracy because I can with this case, but I do think that the jury was tainted, in my opinion.
One of the officers that worked on the case actually was in charge of daily escorting the jury.
The one lady got kicked off. There's so much. There's so much.
Yeah. Now, when is the? I mean, and then everything about Canton being recused and Michael Proctor constantly asking Kevin Albert to come in and get things ready for the case and call witnesses and stuff. Canton's recused, dude. Why are you talking to Kevin Albert about this case? And why are you talking? I don't want to think that the police in my area get a big case and then sit there and call all their buddies the day they find a deceased person and start talking in this way.
About leaky balloons.
Well, or even at all about a case. Most detectives, aren't they really zip-lipped?
Yeah, even the fact that he was disclosing any of that information within his friend group on Facebook Messenger, a non-encrypted messaging source with 8 different people, and who knows who's actually on the other end of it. And he was disclosing identities, facts, details, theories.
And
evidence.
two of them on that chain, on that email, or on that text exchange, were his supervisors. And he didn't get reprimanded.
Something's wrong.
He didn't get reprimanded.
Not until the conclusion of trial 1, he didn't.
I can't believe they let him testify. That blows my mind too. I just can't believe it. I mean, he was being investigated at that point.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
but didn't he have
certain.
a
I'm
choice,
certain
though?
they
'Cause
won't.
the defense just called him, regardless of whether he.
Yeah, the
So-
defense. I'm hoping the defense will.
Yeah.
They can,
Yeah.
but
So they
Brennan's
are
not
going to
going to
call
call
him?
him.
What do you
Brennan's
think
not
about the
going to
new
call him.
prosecutor? What do
Well,
you think about the new prosecutor?
I think he is probably
And you
very
think it's an improvement?
well. He's an improvement to listen to because
Right.
little,
Lally.
Lally and that. What's his hair? It reminds me of one of my grandkids' toys. You know that little song? There's a song about this little animal. It's a bathtub toy. Anyway,
I'm sure I would know it at this point. I know them all. I would probably know. I got the 3-year-old.
Lally was verbose, and if I ever, what was it he always said? He repeated the same phrase every question.
It was
I know what you're saying.
it was the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp lawyer. Oh gosh.
If and when or something.
Yeah.
And if and when did you decide? Blah, blah. If and when did it become apparent to you? If and when. Oh, if and when, you short little guy, go back outside and smoke. He's so ineffective. And he bored the jury. I think his whole strategy was to bore the jury.
So they couldn't wait. So they were clawing their way out of the jury room. They're like, all right, get us the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm seeing in the chat that people are saying they're going to go and binge watch this case now. Don't let Lally's opening statement be an indicator of how the rest of the trial is going to go, because it is seriously one of the most boring. You cannot follow it
beforehand, so you don't fall asleep in the first 2 minutes.
But then the defense's opening statement is probably one of the best I've ever heard, and I watch a lot of trials.
You're right. I agree. But what I don't understand is about this new guy, Brennan, is his whole agenda seems to be to discount the key witnesses and experts that will testify that it was a dog bite and the ARCA guys. He wants them gone. So I think his whole attack isn't going to have to do anything to do with the McAlberts. It's going to focus on just those aspects of the case, which are the two biggest threats.
Well, the judge did rule, right, that defense's dog bite expert is coming in the next trial. She
better be.
Yeah,
she had to because she already cleared her. They had a Dobert hearing for her in the first trial, and
they had
Bev,
the Dobert hearing again.
And that was horrible. That was horrible.
And you
That
know
was
that
so
Bev
mean about
had
it.
to because
double dauber.
she can't say I determined she was an expert in the last trial, but I'm not going to declare her an expert in this trial. Then she's going to get looked at.
Right.
She's going to get investigated because that would just be crooked as hell. So she had to clear it. She had to clear
I
it.
didn't even know you could dauber on the same witness, same piece of the same subject twice. I didn't even know that was doable. But this whole retrial situation is
It's unheard of.
Yeah,
I'm scared for it. I really am scared.
Well, I'm not scared because I don't think. I think there's so much noise and there's so much common knowledge about this trial, especially in Massachusetts, that any jury pool is already going to have an inkling, at least, about this case.
Yes.
And
there's so much at stake.
How are they going to go around that?
For Officer John O'Keefe, but really, this is as close as it gets to stepping on, in a really scary way, our rights as Americans of due process. I mean,
exactly.
Double jeopardy. Hello. I mean, it's so clear to me. I cannot believe that Bev would not hear the jury. I couldn't believe that she wouldn't bring them back just to ask them. There's no harm in that.
I think that was intentional, and I think the way that she wrote that jury form with not guilty being left off every charge, I think that was intentional.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If we're hoping they're dumb, but if they aren't dumb, we're going to confuse them even more, and it worked. Because the jury did decide to acquit her on some of the charges.
Yeah,
So-
that's
Oh.
right. That's right. I mean, there were 2 or 3 jurors on at least 2 of the charges that were dead set. They could not, in their right conscience, say that this woman was guilty of the crimes for which she was charged.
Well,
Now,
they
And thank God for
actually
those
said
people. Those people are heroes.
Yes.
they didn't know how to fill out the form because there wasn't an option to check not guilty, but
That's
they had decided unanimously on 2 of the charges
That's
that she
right.
was acquitted.
That's right. And that was almost like, pick one of the charges, but you have to pick one. That's like, yeah,
So weird.
It was very specifically manufactured by the DA's office and the judge.
Right.
This whole
Sneaky.
case.
Very
that-
sneaky.
Yeah, I mean the charges and everything, the jury charges, and yeah, it's really scary how much power these people grab. Now, Ellie Mama here says no other prosecutor would take this case. Hank Brennan is Whitey Bulger's lawyer. Whitey Bulger is an infamous
Bulger, yeah.
mob dude. I can't talk anymore. And hired just for this. Is that true? I didn't realize
Yes,
that.
yes. Whitey Bulger was a very well-known Massachusetts mobster who murdered probably 40 people in his life and was a huge criminal. And he went into hiding for many, many years. And then when they found him, he went on
Recently, like
trial.
10 years ago,
And
right? Yeah.
and Brennan was his attorney. And
Yeah.
Brennan is lots of attorneys are really good at the law.
Yeah.
But this case is stymieing this guy. I don't know. Maybe he thinks Morrissey's gonna get thrown out of office. He's gonna get voted out, or the FBI is gonna arrest him. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so he thinks maybe he can become the DA, get appointed as district attorney if he takes this case, because he probably is tired. He's had a long career. And he probably just wants a cushy little DA job where all you do is sit around and say, "Yes, we'll charge this case. We won't charge this one. That you're the attorney who's going to take this one. You're the attorney." They don't do anything.
He wants to prosecute some cases that aren't going to acquire another hit on his head.
Yeah, and he doesn't want he doesn't ever want to prosecute again. He wants to just sit and make other people do work because that's what the DAs do. Very seldom does the actual DA of any county or jurisdiction take a case unless they know it's going to be a case of notoriety or a slam dunk that they can win. And then you see the real DA come out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like Chris Watts.
Didn't Morrissey his public announcement that he made, that was him, right?
Yep.
Was that that's another thing you can play. When you go into this case, Kylee, he made a public statement that was just.
He made a public statement that Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe, hit him with her car. He said those words. And that is not something that DAs do at the outset of an investigation.
No,
He
my
said
friend,
that
that is for a jury
before the
determine after the
investigation
charges
was.
are brought and the case is made. You're jumping way ahead of yourself, my friend. Who gave you permission to go there? I mean, that's
Well, and
insane.
they don't usually say that until all the evidence is in. And Mr. Cue ball Proctor didn't even interview some witnesses for 18 months.
That's
Which
right.
cue ball? There's a couple of them.
I mean, that just basically spells out to the world corruption is here.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
We've arrived at the answers before we figured out any of the proper questions.
There seems to be a national trend for lack of integrity, and anything goes nowadays, and it's just scary. But I'm really pissed off. I'm really pissed off about this case because they have so many bald men, and I used to think that men who shaved their heads were really attractive. They have a nice shaped head and a good shaped face. I thought, it's a good look. And I dated a man for 15 years who was losing his hair, and he always wore a hat. And I said, just shave your head. You'd be great. It's perfect. And he would never do it.
Let me tell you, girl, Michael Proctor is not bringing sexy back in the bald man community.
Oh, no. Because stupid bald doesn't fly with me. Corrupt bald doesn't fly.
Dumb as a
But
box of rocks. Bald.
I can no longer say I think bald men are attractive because there's a series of them who go through that little witness stand that you just go, you have absolutely zero integrity, and you killed it for bald men.
And you're actually stupid. It's like Chris Watts level stupid.
It really is. Now, let me just play a couple more minutes of, I feel like there's a natural stopping point in this testimony. So let me just play another few minutes if you guys want to stay with me, and then I'll have to eventually wrap things up. But thank you guys so much. It's such a great discussion.
Yes.
That up with the phrase leaks poo, didn't you?
I did.
Again, another reference to Miss Reed's medical issues and medical conditions, correct?
Correct.
Specifically focused on her anus, correct?
In reference, yes.
Were you aware at the time that you wrote this that Miss Reed had suffered a colectomy surgery? Very serious surgery?
I was not, sir, no.
Were you aware that she had had 10 surgeries in 18 months?
10 surgeries in 18 months.
10.
I was not aware of that.
You were right. I was wrong.
Were you aware that she had serious medical issues, gastrointestinal medical issues that she suffered with, she was a victim of for years? Did you know that?
Objection.
Sustained.
But you decided that you're going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy.
1 second, sir.
He's keeping his head down.
As he should.
I'm sorry. You decided that you were going to take another shot at her and talk about her anatomy as a balloon knot, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
At this point, Trooper Proctor, Miss Reed was just reduced to a punchline to you, wasn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Legit, man.
Well, you weren't done yet. This chat doesn't end yet, does it?
Oh, no, it doesn't.
No, sir.
Let's skip to 2543. On the same date, February 2nd, 2022, about 4:15 p.m., a person by the name of Whitey wrote, "What are you guzzling on?" Correct?
Yes.
And you wrote, "Nothing," writing a warrant.
I wish he was, bet he wishes he was paying closer attention to what Pugs Tawny Phil was doing on that particular February 2nd.
Is that right?
Correct.
Whitey then shares some sort of a video, correct?
Yes.
You remember that video being of the 1980s band Warrant?
I don't recall the video he sent.
0095 laughed and then wrote, "Wait, why does her asshole leak?" Correct?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And then what did Doc write in response to that?
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection sustained. I'll see you at sidebar. Take that down, please.
Mm-hmm. And he just ignores whatever said at sidebar because he gets reprimanded again as soon as they get back out on the floor here.
Well, the objections are never ending.
Oh, absolutely.
Conduct in this case, and specifically your conduct as reflected in these messages.
Here we go. They're on sidebar just for another moment here. Here we go.
Trooper Proctor, without getting into the specifics of the words used in the following, in the next exchange that you're looking at, it's fair to say that your high school buddies then continue to discuss Miss Reed's medical issues, correct?
Objection.
That's sustained. Come on, Mr. Jackson. That isn't what you said you'd ask. Go ahead and ask the question you said you'd ask.
Was there a continued discussion that finished on this subject matter?
Yes.
On Monday, you indicated that your conduct in this case, and specifically your conduct as reflected in these messages, how did you put it? It did not affect the integrity of the investigation, of your investigation, correct? That's what you
Correct.
said to the jurors.
Correct.
You know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Yeah.
It means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
I had my tail light bit.
When you say they're juvenile and regrettable, it sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury for your conduct. Is that what you're doing?
For those text.
Objection.
Sustained.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Miss Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
He should apologize to any human being who has ever stepped foot where they would be under his jurisdiction to act as a law enforcement officer, therefore entrusting your own safety and life and well-being with this man. He needs to apologize to all of those people. And Mr. Proctor, it's a shitload of them because you fucking suck at what you do. And you are a disgrace, not only to men, but humankind. I just need to say
Here.
Yeah.
Bravo.
As the lead investigator in this case, you were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation remained free of any conflicts of interest. That's part of your job, correct?
Correct.
Throughout the pendency of this investigation, in this case, you've denied having any conflict of interest in this case. Isn't that right?
Correct.
In fact, a couple of months ago in February of 2024, you testified in a different proceeding. Is that right?
Yes.
And you testified under oath in that proceeding on February 1st that you did not know any members of the Albert family or McCabe family, correct?
Certain members of the Albert family I did not know. I know Chris and Julie and Colin. I don't know the McCabes.
That wasn't my question. Did you testify? Let's take them one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Did you testify under oath, same oath you took here today, in a former proceeding in February of 2024, that you did not know and did not have any relationship with members of the Albert and McCabe families? Did you?
I haven't had a chance to review those minutes. I've only had one opportunity to, and that was a couple months ago. So I would want to review those minutes in order.
No, homie, listen, nothing can save you because what's happening right now is you are being impeached on the stand as a sworn law enforcement officer who was tasked with leading the investigation as a head detective, looking into the death that was later deemed a murder of a fallen fellow police officer. There is no way out of this one. I could watch him squirm all day long, and then I would have to stop because he's so disgusting. I'd have to stop looking.
Answer that accurately.
You can't remember how you testified, whether or not you knew or had relationships with the Alberts and McCabes?
Objection.
Sustained.
As you sit here right now, you need to refresh your recollection. You can't remember what you said?
Objection.
Do you remember what you said?
During that proceeding, no.
Would it refresh your recollection if you took a look at those grand jury minutes?
Yes.
What page, Mr. Jackson?
This is page 01563.
Okay, I think we're going to have to end it here because I'm like starting to run out of juice, and we've been going for a long time. Thank you guys for coming up here with such a great conversation. I was planning on just doing a little hour previewing his testimony and stuff, but you guys really just kept me wanting to keep looking into this. So thank you so much, both of you.
No
Kylee,
problem.
awesome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, appreciate you. Thank you. You both are welcome to come up anytime.
I'll be back for any other case.
Yes, please. The more
Well, my notifications are on. I'll tell you that.
And Jay May, if you don't mind, if you would mind sending me an email, I totally appreciate it. In case like something comes up and there's a deep question about this case, I have a feeling you might be the person that wants to.
He knows it. You know it.
You know your stuff inside and out. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's an unhealthy obsession.
Well, I like what I'm seeing is that it's clear that you really, truly, and deeply care about the justice in this
You're
case. And I
passionate.
find it to be nothing but admirable. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Benjamin Franklin will be damn proud of you, girl.
And you were
Well,
proactive. You sent a letter to the governor, you said? I mean, that
yes.
to me,
Yeah.
you're being proactive. So it's
Amazing.
not an unhealthy, obsession. You're actually putting it to good use. Ladies, I'm signing off.
All right.
Well,
Kylee,
thank you
I
very
think
much,
we
Kelly. And it was my pleasure. I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye out for your next live.
Yeah, come back soon, please.
Okay, we'll do.
All right,
Take
ladies.
care, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much. Awesome. Well, gosh, guys, thank you for being with us tonight. I mean, they were absolutely great to have on panel. I'm so grateful to Kylee and J May. Thank you guys so much. I know you guys really appreciated them too. So, gosh, I'll be doing a live stream on Friday evening. I'm not sure what I'm going to be talking about yet. My head is spinning right now, but there's definitely, like I said, I'm working on a complete coverage of retrospective coverage of this case. I know there's so many details. If you're just like stepping into trying to figure all this out, I know it's really overwhelming. So I'm trying to take those who need to get more acquainted with this case on, a sensible, fact-based and, compelling at every twist and turn ride. There's no way around that with this one. But then also, be able to offer people who did watch the trial and who have been following this case, some kind of deeper level of analysis and hopefully information if we can get to the bottom of some things. And of course, fact check, vet, and do all the things that we always do on this channel. So Utter, so great to see you. Thanks for coming in. I'm glad you're obsessed with this case because we're going to be all over it. I can't even imagine what this retrial is going to be like. And Anaphylaxis, I'm so glad you came in. Thank you so much for sharing your opinions when you did. I have been thinking about you as I've been watching this. I'm like, my God, I have to know what Anaphylaxis thinks about this. And Kylee says, I learned some new things tonight, as did I. And I think everyone did. I mean, this case is just, it's so deep with, I don't even know what to call it. Part of me wants to say facts. Part of me wants to say evidence. Part of me wants to say corruption. Part of me wants to say bullshit. It's just, Honey Bun says, I think you got a good word there. This was informative and intriguing. Perfect. And thank you so much for everything and for being here. So, all right, guys, I'm super tired. So I'm going to say goodnight for now, but I hope to see you Friday night for the live stream. And yeah, man, we're going to stay with this. I just feel like justice for fallen officer John O'Keefe has unfortunately fallen by the wayside by his own fellow police officers. And I hope that all of the disgrace that exists in the situation and the sources are fully exposed so proper consequences can be what they may. So everybody have a good night. And remember, life is hard, so please be kind to each other. But most of all, be kind to yourself because you deserve it. And I think you're awesome. See you guys soon.